Fucking dollar store Howard Bloom. RIIIICK thought her outer world was a reflection of her innermost beingness. Well, her room was covered in trash, so what does that say? Clean your room, bucko, or bucket, I guess.
What are these conversations that go on while they're waiting for us to start the show?
I have no idea. That's actually what she said privately. RIIIICK said privately that her outer world was a reflection of her innermost beingness. It doesn't sound like RIIIICK to me. I don't know.
No.
Maybe she said something. I doubt it was that. Unless she's a fucking philosopher as soon as the goddamn lights of the camera click off. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You got a lighter?
I don't know what I still don't know what beingness is.
I'm telling you, dude. I've actually read about some of the Scientology definitions of beingness, and like I said, they're really the only people that I've ever heard use that. And I didn't understand how it was.
I'm looking it up. Beingness. Okay, here's a nice dictionary definition. The quality, state, or condition of having existence. How does anyone not have that? Maybe that's not.
That's the thing. I don't understand how that's something that you're mindful of
Yeah.
and try and espouse. It's like, don't you have no choice but to exhibit beingness?
Okay, so she was into psychology. All right. I still don't understand what beingness means in this context, but, I'll endeavor to grasp it one of these days. TJ, will you have Paul do the audiobook version of your book? I think that would be enjoyable and the most ambitious crossover of our time. Which book? I mean, I'm already doing an audiobook version of my book as I write it.
What was he asking for?
He wanted you to record the audiobook version of my book.
TJ's already doing that. I like his narration for his own writing. I would want to do that.
I love you queers. Cheers. It's not like I haven't offered what? To explain beingness? Okay, well, I mean, sure.
Oh, boy.
TJ, you ain't doing shit. I'm doing a stream right now.
Yeah, dude.
This is my beingness at the moment. You just smoking.
Doing that, too.
That's also my beingness. Now coughing is my beingness.
It's a lung full of beingness for you right there.
You saw me drinking Starbucks on DFF. I don't remember what drink it was.
It was a
cinnamon something.
It's like something that's not on the menu. Ashley made it for us. It's like a cinnamon bun or cinnamon roll frappuccino or some shit.
Whatever it was, it tasted good, but it made me feel really bad after I was done.
Because it was literally a half gallon of nothing but sugar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You had
Afterwards, I was like, okay. Felt really good while it was happening. Really good. Oh shit, Streamlabs didn't go through. I don't even have it open right now, so I have to open it up, I guess. Streamlabs has become like my old clunker. Entrar? Why does it say Entrar? Am I in fucking France now? Okay.
good old Streamlabs.
Allow. The video I asked about is the 25th upload on Ideology, Objective Morality. Love you guys. Rock on. Someone gave $5. They didn't really say anything. They just gave $5.
Yeah.
I assume they wanted the butt that $5 buys you, so I guess I'll go manually fucking do that. Is it even up? Oh, Streamlabs is not even clicked on right now. Oh shit, there it is. Okay. So there you go. Good times.
Yeah. I don't remember the video in question. So we'd have to...
Yeah, how come I haven't been to your house yet, Galen? I should go over to your place.
Yeah, dude, I'd love to go to Galen's pad.
Can we come to your place for dinner or something?
Just the two of us boys.
Yeah, men's night at Galen's pad with beer and food. What sayest thou, Galen?
And Galen can explain beingness to us over some delicious
And we're
Creole.
going to fucking pressure him into explaining to us how Alien Covenant is the most Nietzschean film of all time.
Yes, and how Schindler's List is the worst film ever made.
I think I understand about 40% of what he says on that
1776 will commence again.
Me too.
If
Love
you try to
both
take
y'all.
our firearms.
But Galen, sometimes you gotta fucking thanks for the monies. I appreciate
thank you,
it.
Jar of Piss.
You're always a fucking good one, Jar.
Jar of Piss is an amazing dude. He's an amazing jar
He's
of
all.
piss.
I never. He's like he told me one night like it's why it's wise you never made me like a mod, you know.
Yeah.
And I was always like, yeah, even though I like you, there's just a little bit too much of a troll in you, and I can see it.
Oh yeah. That's no like slight to Jar of Piss, but I've had the same exact thought. It was like he's a dude, he's here all the time. He's interesting, he's a big donator, obviously a supporter of what we do, but for some reason never even thought to mod him.
Yeah.
It was just nope, I know that would be a chaotic element that I'm not looking for.
I've never seen Galen. You guys should feature him on the Prohibition DFF. Well, he has a YouTube channel. He's here on it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he's still here, but
He's here.
yeah.
Oh, maybe, unless he had to go. But I'd love to have Galen, but the problem with that is that the whole premise of that episode is everybody has to drink, and I don't know that Galen can sit and drink moonshine.
I mean, I've definitely seen Galen drink, but I think the bigger problem with Galen is like it's hard for him to drink enough for him to actually lose control of his faculties.
Well, I don't know, dude. That moonshine. I just didn't know if he had any health problems that would prevent him from drinking or
Maybe. Who in the chat do you consider regulars? I mean, people who are here all the time. Troll is the nature of the universe. People see a jester when they smoke DMT for a reason. Cool.
All right. Yeah, I didn't know. No disrespect intended, Galen. I just didn't know. I've never seen you drink to excess, so.
I have.
Mea culpa, mea culpa. I've heard stories, but, I just figured that maybe
I have seen him drink.
there were health issues. But yeah, dude, if you want to come and drink a bunch of moonshine and talk about prohibition, I ain't got no problem with it.
$1 CA. Absinthe.
Yeah, if you can actually get real absinthe, like real wormwood absinthe, and not just some dressed up fucking legal variety, it's a very fun drink to drink in excess.
Yeah.
Very different kind of drunk. I've never hallucinated on absinthe, but I can appreciate the difference.
How come Paul is so appalling? I get it.
Get this motherfucker a Pulitzer.
Pulitzer fucking prize winning comment right there.
Get this motherfucker a Pulitzer Prize.
Absinthe is my favorite.
Absinthe makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah, your Canadian dollars fucking suck, but what can you do?
Tequila is my favorite, Galen. I'm a tequila man. I like it because I get a very borracho drunk off of it.
Borracho?
Yeah, borracho.
For philosophical banter and in general for yo streams. Cool.
Oh, thank you.
Good times.
It's interesting on that philosophical point. People are always clamoring for something you and I disagree on, and we very clearly have some disagreements when it comes to our just kind of general outlook and philosophy on life.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, we do.
I think we once... I mean, this was one of the first discussions we ever had, though.
Well, yeah, we've had this discussion in various forms and various mediums.
The main time I remember us having this discussion was in Los Angeles when we discussed that how do you take the Asian pedophile Amos Yee citing you as a primary influence on his YouTube channel? I don't take it any way at all. Last I checked, he wasn't a pedophile, though. He was just like a defender of pedophilia. But, I mean, I don't know. Been watching you guys a while. Here's Tree Fitty, thanks. But I remember us having that discussion in L.A. where it was like we were sitting around that table smoking copious amounts of weed.
Yeah.
And I got into the George Carlin thing. You got into the Bill Hicks thing.
That's what I mean. We've had that conversation a few times through the lens of Carlin and Hicks. But did we really delve into the hard philosophy of it in L.A.? I don't remember us.
I don't know if I make a distinction, but yeah, I mean, I guess not.
I mean, I guess I see what your point is when you say you don't make a distinction. But I'm just saying, did we ever? It was just never explicit that.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like we had the discussion through that discussion.
Sure,
I'd
agree with that.
A different angle of approaching it. But yeah, I mean, we also compared other aspects of Carlin and Hicks too, like how Carlin was like a meticulous joke mechanic who wrote every word almost exactly verbatim how he was going to deliver it on stage, wrote his material, and then performed it.
Yeah. And Carlin, Hicks, who was way more freewheeling with his comedy and prone to outbursts and, long diversions of improvisational dialogue and tangent. That was something that was just almost unthinkable to think of George Carlin doing.
It's not that Hicks didn't have written routines.
Oh no, absolutely. He still wrote his material and he still performed the same set. But he was, Hicks is one of those dudes that were kind of poorer for the fact that nobody was following him around and documenting all his shows, because some of the ones that were just accidentally recorded by a venue in some shitty town have produced some of the most awesome moments, some of the most memorable Hicks moments, like that, when he's in that shitty Southern club and that woman starts accosting him from the audience and he ends up doubled over his stool screaming at her to get a fucking heart.
Carlin was very much more blunt in the way he dealt with hecklers. He was always just like, you want me to come there and stick my dick in your mouth or something like that?
Oh, yeah. He just knew. Because, here's the thing. Carlin had the benefit at some point in his career, at least. And I guess maybe Hicks earned this benefit at a certain point in his career, too. But I think Carlin wrote it for way longer than Hicks did, where he had total command of the audience.
Yes.
Even if you went in there as a person who fundamentally disagreed with Carlin's outlook on life, you were forced to laugh at the absurdity of your own fucking beliefs. He had you by the balls. Not that Hicks didn't, but Hicks had a way more volatile interaction with his audience. He was way more critical of them. He involved them in his bits. One of my favorite audience participation bits that he would do over and over in his sets was the smoking shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I love that he culminated it in pulling out a cigarette. You know what I mean? Like he used to do sets about how he quit smoking, and he would fire up a cigarette in the middle of it, and that was, that's the punchline to the joke. But he would continue on. He'd involve the audience, get them to cheer for something, and then ridicule them for cheering, or right out. You know what I mean? Right after the great bit that he did where, he called out people in marketing. He did that comedian thing, like, hey, just offhand, anybody out there in marketing?
Yeah.
And a few of the douchebags in the room were like, yeah. And then, I don't have to, I'm not even going to try to do a pale imitation of his response, but you can go look it up if you haven't seen it. It's classic. And I guess I like that about, that's one of the things that draws me to Hicks over Carlin. I like that Andy Kaufman-esque fuck with the audience kind. Not that Carlin didn't fuck with the audience's expectations and play them like a fiddle. He just did it from a different perspective.
I mean, Bill Hicks was a performer's performer. Carlin considered himself more of a writer that performed his own material. Not that, not to say that Hicks wasn't capable of writing his material. Obviously he was. Not to say that Carlin wasn't capable of performing his material. He definitely was, but
more than capable. I mean, he was brilliant.
They were both totally brilliant in both regards, but
had two different approaches.
The priority system behind them both was different. It was Carlin had writer first, performer second, and Hicks had it the other way around.
Right.
And I think it's interesting because, there's a lot of similarities between their material, and I kind of almost see it like I obviously don't want to compare myself to Carlin, but, not in the sense of, like, I'm his equal or anything. I don't want it to be conveyed like that, but I always thought of us as, like, me taking more of a Carlin approach, you taking more of a Hicks approach, and
I find that to be true,
and I think that I think that you see the world more like Hicks saw it, and I see the world more like Carlin saw it.
Sure.
It kind of makes me wish that at any point those two had
worked together
in some capacity.
Yeah,
because I would have loved to see what sort of things that would have generated. That's just like
I would never compare myself to Bill Hicks, but in terms of the way that we work, I can see the comparison.
Yeah.
There were some divergences. Hicks had a kind of, I think Hicks might have had a closer to an optimistic, nihilistic view of the world. Like, I think he might, because he had that whole, like, explore inner space and realize that, life is all one vibration.
But he also called humanity a virus with shoes. There was like a duality to Hicks's,
of course,
mental terrain. Sometimes he did do that, like, kind of new agey, like, oh, we're all one and shit. But there was other times when he clearly had a very negative outlook towards the human species,
right,
and all that.
I just got the feeling that he thought that there were some kind of answers, or at least some kind of peace to be found exploring the inner person.
Right.
Which is, whatever, that may be true in some capacity, but it's certainly not something I consider too often in my worldview, because probably it's something I'm incapable of doing. You like to
meditate, right?
I meditate, but it's mindfulness meditation. I do it in short bursts. It's helpful to me in terms of relaxation. I don't feel any kind of spirituality really with it.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you do feel spiritual about? Like, is there anything, even if you just recognize, oh, this is just an irrational, emotional level thing, is there something that you see and it's like, oh, wow, yeah, this makes me feel like this great. Is it nature? Because you kind of talk fondly about nature a lot.
I've had some really cool moments with nature, but I'm telling you, the only time I don't even know really how to explain this. When I'm watching live theater.
Yeah.
And because I participated in it at a very low level, I know what goes on in the production of that. I know how many people are backstage. I know how big the production is outside of what you can see, and how much work and careful crafting went into that. And I have a very deep appreciation for that personally. And when I'm watching a show that is really masterfully performed on every level, I'm talking about by the support staff and the people running lighting and sound cueing, and everything is clicking, I don't even know how to explain it to you, TJ. Like, what should I, like, I get a shiver, I guess.
The shiver, yeah.
No, but it's more than that. It's like I'm shaking at the core, like at the center of me.
Because you like the beauty of the synergy of what the people have put together.
Something about that, and it relates to life, and it's obvious. It's that all the world's a stage, and all, you know what I mean? It's like I have this moment of realization that what I'm watching is just an expression of what I'm living, and I can't really explain it, but it's like a it's almost a pain.
Yeah.
But it's and I'm not talking about a sexual pleasure pain, but it's a pain that it's a good, dull ache, and it comes in a wave that kind of, it's just like for a few, and it happens all throughout the plays at moments where all of that comes together very beautifully. And I don't have that in any other situation in my life. I'm talking fucking, being in love. I got married once. I mean, I've done all the big emotional peaks and valleys. I've been divorced and shit. I have never felt anything in my life like I feel when that happens.
Right.
And that's the closest that I can say, you know, like...
There have been a few moments for me, like in art, where I'll get that feeling. Like, you know, maybe they'll just be not a whole song, but they'll just be a part of a song that just hits me in just the right way, where it's like I get shivers up my legs, like just like... Wow, and I just feel like this, like, whoa, that just fucking blew me away. You know, I feel floored where I'm standing, like some part of the universe I'd never experienced before just opened up to me like a fucking gateway or something. You know,
that
to me is like, that's probably the closest I come to spirit. I mean, like, I got that feeling, Seven Samurai, several moments in that movie. It's usually film and stuff. Like Chelsea makes fun of me because I'm, you know, when it comes to our personal lives, there's not a lot of emotional moments, like for me.
Right.
Where I'm like, you know, my guard's down and I'm open and all this shit. And she never sees me like crying or anything like that.
Right.
But she will see me cry when I'm watching like a film. Like that, probably film more than any other medium gives me that spiritual... that moment, you know, I'm always waiting for that fucking moment of like, this is transcendently good.
Right.
This, because it's like, I don't understand how a film works the way you understand how a play works, but I understand like storytelling, and like to see it done that expertly.
Yeah.
You know, I just, you know, and to realize someone wrote that, someone conceived of that, someone delivered that way. Mm-hmm. And that, you know, multiple people were involved on several different levels, and they all had to work together to accomplish this, to make this moment happen. You know, it's to me, it's about the achievement of the artist, but it's also about, you know, I'm so engrossed in this world that, like, that resonates with me more than big moments in my own life. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm just viewing it as an outsider. You know, they've created and engendered some perfect empathy from me for what's going on the screen, when usually I'm just a detached observer.
I identify with that, certainly, as part of the feeling that I get. I mean, it's just, I feel like I can see all of the, like, at least in a limited capacity, all of the contributions that made this happen, from the brilliant writer that first conceived of the play. And having been involved in plays, too, and I'll be honest with you, dude. I worked with a dude that I consider to be legitimately brilliant as a playwright. His name is Chuck Irvin. He has a low-level gig. I mean, it's not low-level. He's the head of the theater department at Fresno City College. So, I mean, whatever. It's a city college place. But that, I consider that to be pretty low-level given his fucking talent and ability. But he does that because it gives him time to be a writer. And he's fucking brilliant. To get to work with somebody like that and act in their work directed by them, I can't even tell you, dude, what an appreciation that gave me of like just the whole process. I got those chills from when I was a little kid. The first time I remember getting them was at the Nutcracker. My mom took me and my little sister to go see the Nutcracker ballet that would come to town. And when I was a little kid, and I remember just being covered in goosebumps watching it. And then another big time that had happened to me is Les Mis went on tour, and the Broadway cast was touring the country, and they stopped at the Soroyan Theater in Fresno, and I went. And I was probably 12, and fucking just, it was almost uncomfortable being there. Because I was just so rigid with like I don't know how to say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like an orgasm. It's not sexual at all. It's just like an altered state almost.
Yeah, I remember being at my mom actually took me to go to a fucking Marilyn Manson concert, because she's a big rock fan too. She wanted to go.
Yeah.
And, I was probably too young to just be dropped off at a Marilyn Manson concert. Because it's pretty fucking, crazy, especially in that year, because it was like 1999 or something.
Yeah.
I was like 14. And, I honestly, like, had been going through a kind of, like, maybe if I hadn't gone to that concert, I probably would have had my, like, I've outgrown this kind of thing. Because I was on that edge already. Like, I liked the albums, but I was kind of like, man, I feel like I figured this guy out. I know what he has to say, all this shit.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. So there's been plenty of bands in your life that, you listen to an album, damn, that's a great album. You listen to it, yeah, that's pretty good. And then you're just kind of like, you don't buy their third one.
Right.
Like, yeah, I got it. I was at that point with Manson where it's like, I've been a fan for a year. I'd been pretty voracious about it. The new album was coming out, but I was kind of like, I'm not sure I'm feeling this anymore anyway. But I went to the concert, and, like, I'm not going to tell you it was like some jaw-dropping, mind-blowingly good concert or some shit. But, like, it being my first concert and just, like, I don't know, he just fucking looked like so much larger than life and shit. Just being him and being out there. There was just, like, that natural fucking, like, star power that I didn't understand was even a thing before.
Right.
And I've seen it a few times since, because, like, I don't know, I've seen a couple celebrities, in my life, other than going to concerts and seeing them on stage. Like, my dad we live in California for a while. We like to go to the Beverly Hills Hotel for brunch and shit.
Dude, all you have to say is that you lived in the LA area.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you lived there for any significant period of time, you bumped into a celebrity.
Yeah, sure. And, Keanu Reeves was there. And he had a big group of people gathered around him and all this shit. And, he's Keanu Reeves, and he's being nice, and he's being friendly, and he's being cool. But there was not that, like, wow.
Yeah.
That's a fucking, like, dynamic, explosive, coming at you kind of personality.
It was just kind of strange,
like,
surreal to see them not lit and make-upped and everything,
Yeah, and, it was just like,
going about
there's
their business.
Keanu Reeves. That's a peculiarity.
Yeah.
I also saw, totally unrelated, I saw Neo. Why not see Morpheus? I took a fucking flight with Morpheus.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It was a flight, I think, to New Orleans. I don't know if it was from California or not. He was up in first class. I was in, like, business class, so I was close enough to kind of hear him, because he has a very deep,
distinct
booming voice. Yeah. Like, he's probably sitting from where I am now to that door over there. For the audience's reference, that's about, 8 feet, 9 feet.
Yeah.
Maybe 10. But there's, like, the worst turbulence ever on the flight and shit. And I catch little glimpses of him enough to know that's Lawrence Fishburne and shit.
Right.
The flight starts getting fucking the worst turbulence I've ever been through. Just, like, the plane, it feels like it's just being grabbed by an angry giant and shook.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, boom, 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 literally bouncing like that. Lawrence Fishburne is up in the front laughing and joking and all this shit. He don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
He's probably flies all over the goddamn place, or he's just naturally just kind of like, whatever, he's cool.
Yeah.
But, it wasn't until after the flight that I really got to see that motherfucker up front and close, and, like, I was standing out there and I saw him walking towards me through the airport, and I'm just like, man, that's a fucking charismatic motherfucker. Like, even if he wasn't a fucking celebrity, you'd just be like, whoa, this guy is explosive. Anything he does, says, you're paying attention to him.
Of course.
Keanu Reeves wasn't so much like that.
You see that in the pictures that people turn into memes of Keanu Reeves, though.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have... It's not that he's not a huge fucking star. He just doesn't have that Kanye West, I'm a fucking star and I'm going to be a fucking star up in this bitch type of personality.
He's good at playing the everyman kind of character for a reason.
Right.
Because he's not that. Galen used to wait on him Who, Keanu Reeves or Lawrence Fishburne? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the chat because I was just talking to Paul.
I'm trying to remember all of my brushes with celebrity because I've interestingly, for a kid from a shitty little town, I've had quite a few. The first one that comes to mind is the fucking Leonard Nimoy.
Because you actually got to talk to him.
I got to perform a monologue for Leonard Nimoy and then have him give me a talk about that monologue personally, one-to-one, and meet him and shake his hand and shit. And that's not just a brush with celebrity. That's a genuine moment of insight into it, you know, because he's, you know, say what you want. I mean, he's not the biggest celebrity on the planet, but he probably couldn't go anywhere and people wouldn't be like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Yeah. He was a global celebrity. The other ones have definitely all been pretty much brushes. When I was in New York with my dad, one of the cool things that I got to do was he bought tickets to a few Broadway shows. Yeah. And one of the shows that was in town was How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and Matthew Broderick was headlining it. Say what you want about Matthew Broderick as a movie actor. I think he's been brilliant and pretty stilted and lame in some films.
So he's run the gamut for you.
He's a really good theater. That's his calling.
Right.
And he was brilliant in that show.
Yeah.
And my father and I were walking around after the show. We'd just come out of it, and there was this T-shirt place that we wanted to go look at that had all these movie T-shirts. And we're on the way there, and we're kind of around the back of the theater we had just come out of, and fucking Matthew Broderick just comes doobly doobly doo, and I'm wearing my shirt that I bought in the fucking lobby, and he looks at me and he goes, "Cool show, great show, huh?" And I'm like, okay. So there was that. I mean, and that's something that, like, New Yorkers don't even bat an eye at, you know what I mean? People that are in shows, they see them all the time. But for me, it was just cool. You know, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. That happened to me kind of similarly one other time. I was with my ex-wife and one of her friends.
Paul's actually doing something on Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. Oh, and I actually, interestingly enough, had a brush with Nicolas Cage when I was a younger kid. Yeah, at Disneyland, of all places. I was a younger kid, and I was there with my parents, and he came walking by with... In fact, I probably would have been not there with my parents. I must have been there as a teenager. And he came walking by with his son, who was a little fat kid at the time, surrounded by... Mickey's security.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was just
to the
like
front of the line of every ride.
Most people didn't see him, but he's tall as fuck. And you know, he was walking around, he had his hand around his arm, you know, so that's not really a brush, but I saw him, and that was more weird than anything. Fuck. And then so I was in a little town called Santa Cruz with my ex-wife and one of her friends. And we were there to see Ween.
Yeah.
And we didn't end up being able to get tickets for Ween because I waited till too late. And we didn't know they were in town until we got there. And we were like, fuck. And they were sold out. So we were kind of bummed out and walking around before the show with nothing to do downtown. Decided to go to a Starbucks. And this dude walks by. And I just kind of do a double take at him. And it's Gene Ween. He's there. They're staying in the hotel right there. He's about to do a show. He's going, you know. And I'm like, you know, and I'm just kind of gawping at him. And the girls were having a conversation about Ween. And they were like, yeah, Ween, fucking blah, blah, blah. And he overheard it. And he was like, kind of a totally similar situation. He turned around and he was like, Ween. And I was like, none of them, they were like, yeah, buddy. And I was like, they didn't know. They didn't know.
Yeah.
And he just walked on, and they were like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "This fucking Gene Ween." And they went into stalker mode. They like literally were like, "Let's follow him." So they sat down at the thing. They watched him go into his hotel. We all waited for him to come back out, and it was like they elected me to go talk to him. And all I did was stalk him. I didn't have the balls to like say anything to him. He came out of his hotel, and they were like, "Go, go, go." Go say something to him. Go say something to him. So I run across the street and I like walked behind him and he was on his cell phone and he was talking to somebody. And I just like listened to his conversation on his phone. Followed him to the corner. He crossed and went into the venue in the back and I just walked away.
Didn't you get insulted by...
I got insulted by Anna Nicole Smith.
Yeah.
Yep, not Paris Hilton, Anna Nicole Smith. And that was I was in L.A.
Boo.
I was in L.A. At the Whiskey A Go Go with a band called Spread Needle that I used to chill with, guys that were my neighbors, basically.
Yeah.
And anyway, I've told that story before, but long story short, she walked by and kind of yelled at me and called me a faggot.
Because you looked at her.
I was staring at her. She was with an entourage of weirdos, and she was, a midget was among, not that they shouldn't be able to walk without being gopped at, but I was drunk, and it's the middle of the night, and it's Anna Nicole Smith.
But anybody who's standing there, and then all of a sudden, Anna Nicole Smith, even if you don't know who she is, just her distinct look.
Yeah.
And she has a big entourage of people, including a fucking midget and shit. I mean, like,
yeah.
Who the fuck is not going to be like...
Yeah. You know what I mean? I didn't mean to be rude, but, I mean, she took it a different way.
I think that bitch just wanted to fucking call somebody a faggot.
Probably. She crossed the street right in front of the Whiskey A Go-Go and then passed by me and then walked about, 10, 15 feet away with her crowd of sycophants and... midgets, fucking big black security dude, and then she turns around at some point. She goes, "Hey!" And I just keep gopping because I don't think there's no way Anna Nicole Smith is saying "hey" to me. She's calling one of her aunt. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, she's like, "Hey, you!" And I just keep staring, and she's like, "You!" And she points right at me, and I'm like, "Me?" You know what I mean? She's like, "Yeah, faggot. Why don't you take a fucking picture, faggot, loser, loner?" And I was like, and her whole sycophant crew was like, ah! And she just turned around and left. Didn't even give me an opportunity to go, "Fuck you, you fat has-been bitch. It's about to be dead from barbiturate overdose." I didn't get to say shit. Not that I would have. Not that I would have. I just got dressed down by Anna Nicole Smith and a midget. You know what I mean? So I just stood there and I was like, all right. And they all walked away.
But then she died.
On a different trip.
Dude, it was so weird for me. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It was so weird for me when she fucking died, though. Because it was really one of the moments where I realized, like, wow, I'm really diverging from what American culture is now. I thought maybe, like, some trash tabloid shit might care, and that was about it. Mm-hmm. But, man, it was like... a national tragedy has happened. Anna Nicole Smith is dead. It's like, what?
Because she was
Who
such a spectacle.
Who cares that repugnant piece of shit is dead?
She was such a spectacle, dude. So many fucking people were cashing checks on how weird she was.
Yeah, but they acted like, oh my God, she was this great person. Like, what?
Because they wanted to absolve themselves of creating the freak show environment that led to her wild drug abuse. It was like
the fucking Michael Jackson thing. Like, destroyed his life. Ruined him, and then when he died, like, MJ was a legend. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You guys you're on his side now. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
One block from the Whiskey, I had to incredibly say that I saw.
Yeah.
But we went and had pizza at a place now. I can't remember I think it's Mike's Pizza or some shit. There's like a pizza place that's been there forever that's a block and a half from the Whiskey A Go-Go.
Yeah.
And we were in there just to get a slice of pizza, drunk off our asses after drinking at the club, and sat down and whatever, had a few pitchers of beer there, so got even drunker. Had pizza.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, I'm slurring and drunk. I'm fucked up. And I'm having this conversation like, "Dude, you know who we are, man. We're fucking up." This was before the Anna Nicole Smith shit had happened.
Yeah.
I said, "You know where we are, man? You know where you guys are playing tomorrow night? It's a Whiskey A Go-Go, man. It's like, do you know that any moment, somebody hella famous could just like walk up in anywhere we're at?" And this waitress that had been waiting on us all night started busting up laughing. And I was like, "What? What's funny?" And she's like, "Are you seriously telling me you didn't see who was just sitting at the table over there?" I was like, "What?" She goes, "Those two dudes that were sitting right there at the table next to you guys. You didn't see who that was? None of you guys saw who that was?" And we were all like, "No." She just started laughing, and a few of the patrons had kind of tuned into my loud-ass conversation, laughed too, because they'd all probably just knew who it was. And she was like, "It's just hilarious hearing you have that conversation when you just ate pizza and drank 3 pitchers of beer like 10 feet from Tobey Maguire and fucking, what's his name?
I don't know.
Basketball Diaries dork.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. They're friends that are always, at least at that time, they're all palling around and shit. And she was like, "Yeah, they're in here like twice a week, and they sat down and had a slice of pizza right there near you, and she's like, I just thought that was funny.
That is pretty funny, dude. You're just like, yeah, man.
It's so stupid.
There'd be any... Oh, that's not mine. So any moment now, a celebrity might come in here, dude.
Yeah.
It could only be funnier if you said that to one of them. You know?
I know.
You guys ever see anybody famous, man?
What a fucking dork.
Can I watch the Prohibition episode if I become a patron right now? I think so. I think that's how it works. Don't quote me on it. I've run into many over the years, Will Smith and Henry Rollins. I wound up talking to each of them a while. Will Smith and Henry Rollins. Probably not at the same time, I'd imagine. I don't know.
That would be pretty wild.
Yeah, me and Henry Rollins and Will Smith sat down and discussed life. I don't know. No one likes Reznor. He really burned bridges here in New Orleans. Yeah, I had an encounter with Reznor at one point.
Did you?
Yeah, dude. It was like at a music festival. He was there with his little posse of people and shit. And, like, people were kind of coming up to him and shit. And he was just like, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, you're Trent Reznor at a music festival. I don't know what you think. Like, no one's gonna be like, dude, Trent. You know, like, it kind of surprised me he was even there with, like, the attitude he had about it. Like, because, I mean, like, I'm kind of like that, you know. I'd just not be there, you know.
Yeah, that sucks.
But, I don't know. He kind of looked at me for a minute, and I just got the feeling of, like, I've just been looked at like I'm just, like, disgusting.
Yeah.
You know, like, very few people have, like, the only time I can really remember, like, such a naked look of disapproval was, like, that old bitch in, the Bob Evans that I farted in the face of.
Yeah.
Like, he kind of just had that same, like, ugh, you know?
Like you were a fucking asshole for even saying anything?
I didn't say anything.
Or
I was just
you were
there.
Just an asshole
I was just
for
kind of lingering around. Maybe he was, like, weary, like, because
you're big,
you know?
But, I mean, whatever. He's never seen a big dude that's into his music.
Yeah, I mean, I was just, like, kind of, like, you know, hanging around because I was like, oh, Trent Reznor's over there, you know. I didn't even really want to address him or anything. I just kind of saw there was, like, people around. I'm like, oh, is he, like, talking to people? I just want to come over here. But it was all just, like, him being like, you know, I'm just here to see the music. And it's like, well, I can understand that, but, you know, you're a bit more of a celebrity than you could just go to a big crowded music festival and expect people not to be giving shit. I mean, you know, he had his security around him. They were keeping people, like, you know, out of, like, arm's reach of him and shit.
Yeah.
I think maybe he thought he was, like, incognito or some shit. Because he didn't, you know, he was kind of dressed like, or maybe that's just how he dresses. I don't know. Like, because you kind of think he's like, oh, he's, like, super goth or something, especially at that time. But he was dressed really, like, vanilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom's had beers with Clint Eastwood.
That's awesome.
Yeah. She went to, I can't remember, I think it's in Santa Barbara or something. He owns a bar, the Hog's Head Inn, I think it's called, or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And she was chilling there with my Aunt Barbara, hoping that he would come in there because he's just kind of known to go there and chill and have a few beers, and he did. And they approached him, and he ended up sitting with them for a little while and had a few beers with them. And it's a cool story to hear her tell.
Yeah.
Because she's a huge, I mean, she, like in a heartthrob kind of way.
Right, yeah. So
you know what I
like
mean?
A crush kind
of
thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That was like a big thing for her on her bucket list. And
that's pretty cool.
That's a pretty neat thing that not a lot of people can say they've gotten to do.
This chair doesn't lock anymore. That's cool. I killed Anna Nicole Smith. I had situations with Jenna Bush and Natalie Portman on different occasions.
The Hog's Head is not it, then. That's in Harry Potter.
Whatever. Clint Eastwood owns a bar. It doesn't matter what the fuck it's called.
Yeah.
Silver Bullet Saloon.
Yeah, go look it up.
I'm sure it's listed somewhere. This fucking thing locks.
You're lucky you don't live in Utah. Nobody famous ever comes here except for Mitt Romney, who I see all the time now since he's running for senator.
Gross.
Dude, I can back that up, dude. I spent almost a month in Cedar City, Utah. And it was like being on fucking Mars, dude. And it was during the winter, too. So it was like colder than anywhere I've ever experienced. It's up in the mountains in Utah. So it's like sub-zero temperatures, like take your breath away cold.
Yeah.
And I'm living in a fucking Motel 6 and with a bunch of college kids who all want to fucking smoke pot and drink. And I'm like, you can't fucking do that. You have to be on the DL here to the extreme. Like they don't even sell alcohol after 8 p.m. or on the weekends at all. I mean, it's like totally Mormon lockdown town.
Yeah.
And it's got a cool college there that does a really cool Shakespeare festival. But outside of that, it's like the light of humanity is not touching that place. It's a ghost town.
Yeah.
It's like people are just like, well, everything's so restrictive, so I don't go out. Like, even during the hours where you're allowed to go into the restaurants and shit, it's like there's just a few people milling around because it's like, why bother?
They said it's called the Hog's Breath Inn, by the way, the Clint Eastwood bar.
Hog's Breath. There you go.
Yeah, I went to a Star Trek convention at one point. Now, these are not like big celebrities for the most part. I mean, like Patrick Stewart was there and shit.
Yeah.
But it's just weird to, like, because all these Star Trek actors, they'll just fucking walk right in to the fucking place. You know, like, they're just walking around. They, you know, whatever. It's kind of like a weird thing being a Star Trek convention because you can tell that it's like, these actors are all idolized by these people, and the actors seem like appreciative towards their audience, but at the same time, it's like they're from very fucking different worlds because all these actors are like theater fags,
Right.
And all these fucking people watching them are science fiction geeks.
Yeah.
And but the weird thing is, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise sometimes because they don't get bothered by the people there. Like everyone is literally like too afraid to approach them for the most part. Unless they're at a table or something. So you'll just see them sitting around like the cast and stuff. They'll just be talking and hanging out and shit. And people will be kind of like staring at them reverently, but no one will speak to them.
Yeah.
So they're almost treated like gods there. And then they get to go in the real world where you know, normal people who don't watch Star Trek are just, you know, they're nothing to them.
Right.
You know? That's kind of a weird fucking experience. I'd go back to one of those, though.
Yeah.
I've met many cartoonists, too. Galen is going through a list of the people he's met. Just write it out, dude. Galen knows. Yes, you should shave your legs. What? They're talking about, like, leg shaving and shit in here? Why did I even turn back to this?
Who knows?
Go away.
Shoo, all of ya. Boo.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the obscure niche celebrity thing is the best.
Yeah.
Be famous among one crowd and then be able to go into the world anonymously.
Yeah. I think it's funny that we had this conversation that started with us talking about how we've never really had a direct conversation. We've had this conversation through the lens of Hicks and Carlin,
yeah.
and then we just had that conversation again.
Well, I mean, like, we're exploring fucking different facets. Because, like, to me, the interesting thing about the difference in philosophy is, like, there's an enigma to it. Where, you know, I consider myself optimistic nihilist, whatever that means.
Okay.
You consider yourself a pessimist, whatever that means. I'm trying to explore both of our psyches in such a way that I can figure out what the actual difference is there.
Right.
Because, like, if we fucking just take the team of, like, I'm team optimistic nihilist, you're team pessimist, then we're just going to focus on, like, trying to create a wedge of division between those two things.
Right.
I'm trying to see, like, from, like, that qualia level of, like, internal experience and the way we process information and stuff. Yeah.
It's like when you look at red and it's red. Qualia.
You know, but no, I'm serious. Like, you know, like, because, like, there's an ineffable sort of, like, That's why I started with the spiritual experience thing, because I mean I think that that's probably the truest indicator of where a person is.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really similar, because you said theater, I said film. Those are two very similar fucking things, but they're just a little bit different. Just like Carlin and Hicks, two very similar things, but just a little bit different.
Different approaches.
So I feel like, given like all of these commonalities, I feel like there cannot be this massive chasm of difference between your underlying philosophy and my underlying philosophy, where there is something. There's a subtle fucking difference.
I mean, I think the size of that chasm depends on how closely you look at our philosophies. And that's what that's why I find the conversations we have about these things, however they turn out, to be interesting. Because I think we're chasing the same thing, just once again from two different angles. You know, like I like to look at the differences from a really, really micro perspective. Like I want to find out what the nuts and bolts differences are.
I feel like you have more of a Howard Zinn approach too, with the way you view humanity from the bottom up.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And not from the top down, like
Howard,
the classic historical perspective.
You answered a question on one of these that we did together the other day about a book that really affected you, like a fiction and nonfiction. Yeah. And I didn't answer because the person didn't ask me. But my nonfiction answer would have been A People's History by Howard Zinn.
Yeah.
That book profoundly changed my perspective. You know, even though you got to consider the source and all that shit.
Sure.
It just taught me the value of looking at a subject from the bottom up.
And it kind of is a refutation of the great man idea of history. You know, it looks more at social forces and things like that from like a sociological perspective. Someone asked for $5 what we would do when we hit 10,000 patrons. I have no idea, but it probably should be something spectacular, I guess.
I mean, I think at that point we'd have to do a big live show somewhere.
Oh yeah, I think we'll probably do live shows.
I mean, I'm just saying, like,
that.
Just specifically for that, though.
Carnegie Hall.
Yeah, no. I mean, just rent a big place and a really easy to get to kind of travel hub, or maybe even do a tour. You know what I mean? Do a couple of European spots and a couple of U.S. spots, and just do whatever. I'm just spitballing, but yeah, 10,000 patrons. We'd have to do something pretty spectacular for you guys for that. And get it filmed and shit and put out an awesome fucking...
We'd definitely have to do something
tour video.
Big for that.
Meet up
in Book of Ben.
Hatchet by Gary Paulson.
See, I hate that book. So
I love it.
There's a thing.
Yeah.
There's a fucking difference. What do you like about Hatchet?
It taught me what despair is.
Yeah, okay.
I'm dead fucking serious. And that's what the book is about. A lot of people think it's about overcoming adversity. Mm-hmm. But it really is just a book about surviving abject despair. And at every corner meeting more despair. And so it really is kind of a dogged survival book. But really it taught me what despair is. I didn't have a concept. I mean, I knew what the word meant. But I didn't have a concept of it until I read it. And I read it very early in life. It was on like the 4th or 5th grade reading list at my school. And I stole a copy of it from the school library. And I still have that stolen copy of Hatchet somewhere in my possessions in a box here. But somebody has kindly gifted me a really nice edition of it.
Because you've talked about it before.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's just something so human about it. One of the scenes that sticks into my mind is at the beginning of that book, Brian is on the plane heading over the Canadian wilderness to visit his dad. He's alienated from his dad. His parents are divorced, and he's confused and angry and really not appreciative of all the beauty that's going on down below him as he flies over this, remote area of the Canadian wilderness. And then his pilot starts to burp and then fart. And, that's just something as a kid, you never read about a fart in a serious book on the reading list. You know what I mean? But it wasn't funny because it was indicative of something that was horribly wrong with this pilot and it eventually leads to like being a heart attack and shit. And it's just his system is shutting down. And it's just horrifying. Like there's nothing funny about Hatchet. It's a grim book all the way to the end. Because the end of the book is you get a little look at what Brian is afterwards, which is a grim, hard, distant man who is, never once again like concerned with anything in the material world and has been hardened down to this kind of caveman edge.
Yeah.
So there's nothing positive in the book.
I don't know, though. I feel like to that author, they fetishized and romanticized that. Like, because that's what I didn't like. Because I felt like it was this, like, defense of primitivism and simplicity. And like, oh, yeah, when you take away all this bullshit of the material world, and here I am, a fucking hedonist to my core that's materialistic as fuck. And I'm just like, fuck you. Because at that point, you're confronting my value system. And I feel like if you're going to do that, you got to have something a little better than the plane crash and I had to live with an axe. And I thought it was romanticizing it. And they actually made us read. There was another thing about that book, too, is I was forced to read it. Mm-hmm. So that might kind of sour, like, when something is an edict issued from authority, it's kind of like, to me anyway, I'm like, what are you trying to what are you trying to mold me into? Fuck you. You don't get to choose what I fucking read.
Yeah. But I can't claim to be that way now, but when I was young, like probably starting in the first grade, I was a voracious reader.
Yeah.
Anything you'd put in front of me, I'd read it.
Yeah.
And I'm not that way anymore. I have to be more choosy with my time now and shit. But when I was a kid, man, I didn't feel forced. That was my favorite thing about school, was when it was like, oh, it's time to read book. I love all those old books. I mean, I wouldn't put them on the pedestal that I put Hatchet on. I think Hatchet speaks to me on a very different level. But
did you read any? There was another book
where the red fern grows. I haven't read anything else by Gary Paulson.
There's another guy. He's the same fucking guy. He wrote this other book. It's basically almost the same thing, but it's even more of an exaltation of the values I'm talking about, where it's like, it's about this troubled city kid who's super, materialistic and concerned with all the superficialities of life, who gets sent down to live at his family's farm where, it's honest work and, all this other bullshit.
Yeah.
And, he fucking works the land and he has this new appreciation for the simple life. And so it's like the same kind of like, things was better when they was just a little bit more primitive and uncomplicated.
Yeah, I think that with his books, because I feel that same string in Hatchet that probably turns you off to it. I just feel like it's a work that spoke to me in a way that wasn't intended by the author. They would not have put that on the reading list at school if it was an exaltation of despair like I see it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it just...
That's the thing about art is, you can...
Exactly. You can't tell me how to fucking view the painting, right? You can paint all you want, but you can't control how I perceive your fucking art.
Right.
And in the case of Gary Paulson, I don't really know much about the man. I've kind of avoided looking into him because I don't really care. Hatchet was, like I said, you asked life-changing, kind of perspective-changing books. Easy answer. It's probably even above a people's history for me in terms of impact I feel it had on my life, because it
you were
just
younger when you read it too.
Yeah, I was young, and to make that kind of connection, I see so many parallels now. It's become even more important to me as I get older and come,
because you see it as like foundational to a lot of fucking things you believe.
It totally makes sense. I've read that book every year of my life since whatever grade it was they gave it to me. I've never failed to read that book one time in a year in my entire life.
Jeez. Yeah, I can't say that about anything. Who wants to erp? The fuck is an erp? Fucking weirdo. I interpreted Othello in such a way that Iago was the good guy. My teacher had no counter argument. Cool. I remember, I'm ashamed to say it, but I've only ever seen that shitty modernized like Julia Stiles and shit.
Yeah.
So that's then it was not the best way to see that story, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, I always say if you want to see Shakespeare, see it live. Have you ever seen any live Shakespeare at all?
I don't even think I've seen any live theater other than like a few plays we were like fourths and shit are.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'd say that like New Orleans has probably got a pretty decent.
I don't know what the.
I mean, if I got to see some of the big fucking shows in Fresno, I gotta imagine they make a stop over in New Orleans.
Oh yeah,
or somewhere nearby enough.
I've definitely seen shows come around. I mean, they're just expensive, but. Paul, have you watched the film adaptation of Hatchet titled "A Cry in the Wild," released in 1990?
Mm-hmm. I don't like it. I mean, whatever. You can imagine how dumbed down it has to be. There's not a whole lot of.
There should be basically no dialogue in that movie.
And there's too much. It's a lot of internal dialogue.
Oh, so they decided to do the whole voiceover thing.
They do the voiceover thing, and they do a lot of emoting where he, talks to things in ways that are totally nonsensical. I don't know. It's just a bad. I don't know. I don't recommend it.
What do you think of Castaway?
That's a loaded question, honestly.
Why? Why? Because
I'm of really two minds about that movie.
Okay.
There's a part of Paul's ego that's like, fuck yeah, that was a great movie, and like, yeah, blah blah. And there's a part of me that's just like, man, I just don't fuck that movie. I don't know, dude. I don't know how to feel about Castaway. I feel like Tom Hanks's performance transcends the material.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, his performance is very good.
So I don't really like the story. I've seen it done better. Like that kind of like Stranded kind of movie, if you want my favorite of those.
Yeah.
It's Alive. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
That's the one where they eat their cabin mates and shit when the plane crashes.
Yeah. I think that's a way better example, because it's more...
But there's not that solitary thing, though.
Right.
I was more thinking about a story about someone being isolated from all others.
Right.
Which there's not a whole lot of those.
You're right.
There's Jeremiah Johnson with Robert Redford. He's not really stranded. He just kind of chooses to go off and live on his own. Mm-hmm. He does at some point in the movie have a wife and kid, but they get killed. And Paul, do you love Anne Rice, The Vampire Chronicles? I actually like the first 2 books of that. I
enjoyed I've only read the first book, and I enjoyed it. For some reason, I didn't pick up any of the others.
It's the Vampire Lestat is pretty good, but after that, it really just degenerates more and more into like just bawdry. Like here are, like it always had that element of like here's some pseudo heterosexual vampires for women to masturbate to,
right?
And it had kind of a good story to go along with that at first, and then it kind of just degenerated into just that. So I was kind of like, whatever. But I do like the first 2 books. The Vampire Lestat's a pretty good follow-up to Interview with a Vampire.
You know what a great movie where it's a solitary character study?
Yeah.
Is Moon.
Really?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of that guy's name that's in it.
Sam something.
Sam.
I'm sure someone in the chat.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, check it out. That's one of my, one of those solo performance films that's really, it's probably my favorite examination of that, like, one perspective film.
Yeah, those are kind of hard to pull off, but there's been a few good ones. What's this? There's talk about femboys in there. Femboys!
I think most of the people that are in here are just listening to us talk and not participating, and the only people that are participating in the chat, because we're not paying attention to it, are the people that want to type "cum" and the little splatter thing over and over again.
Sam Rockwell.
Yeah. I also really like him in Frost Nixon. He plays the crazy researcher guy.
That's a good movie.
Yeah.
Paul knows what's what. Yeah. We would participate if you'd listen to That just says it all, doesn't it?
Yep.
Well, I don't know. They're probably on a phone. I can't criticize anyone's typing on a phone because my phone loves to fuck up what I just said.
I hate phones, dude.
They're garbage, dude. When the cell phone thing happens, I was like, nah. You know what they fucking hooked me though was I was at a motel late one night, and I'm just like fucking bored out of my mind. I'm like, Scotty, can I use your phone? Because he's asleep anyway. He's like, yeah, I guess. I get on his phone. I start looking up porn on it, and I'm like, man, I gotta get me one of these phones.
Yeah.
And that was where they got me.
You know when it finally sunk its hooks into me as something that I absolutely needed was when I started dating Ashley.
Yeah.
Because she was the first, like, real phone
generation person.
Phone generation person I'd spent a ton of time around. And at first I hated it. Because I looked at it as a slight how much time she spent, like, just, you know, any moment that wasn't filled with conversation was like on the phone. But the more she did it, the more I was just like, it started out of like, you know, anger at first. It was like, well, fuck you. If you're just going to be on your fucking phone, then I'm going to do the same. And I started doing it, and I was just like, oh, all right.
That's what this is about.
Yeah. It's like the internet, but it's on my phone, so I don't have to, like, I can just jack off here in bed because I can, you know, I did eventually. The porn sold me. That's part of what sold me on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of, we've always loved our fucking computers and shit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, you got one in your fucking pocket now. It's not as good.
It's
in most
nowhere near
ways,
as good, yeah.
but it's in your fucking pocket, so
And you can do most of the shit you spend time doing on the
just
computer
takes
anyway.
longer and is more frustrating.
Right. But you
can do it.
From your couch.
Yeah, wherever you want, any place.
It means a different thing to guys like you and me, though.
Yeah.
One of the things I learned from Ashley, and to a limited extent, like the kids that I worked around in school when I was part of the school district.
Right.
Part of my job was, you know, working with kids and their technology and, you know, showing them how to use the stuff. So, one of the things I learned is they look at it like a utility nowadays. It's not like we're all talking about, like, wow, yeah, this is how we figured out that it's cool. She doesn't even consider it to be cool. It's just a necessity.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a thing for them.
It's just like
this
is
a technology that you and I had to, like, make a conscious choice. Like, I'll adapt to this technology, I guess.
Yeah.
For them, it's just like, this is a thing you have.
Yeah.
Like, you know, not having a cell phone be like, that's like, I don't have a toothbrush or something.
Mm-hmm. To illustrate the difference, a few months ago, Ashley's phone broke. And by broke, I mean, like, just stopped charging or whatever, right? But she could still get it to charge, but it was just hard. She had to fiddle with the cord and shit. And it eventually drove her so crazy that she had to get a new phone. My phone looks like it was a part of a car accident and has for probably 6-8 months.
I'm familiar with your phone.
Yeah. And I don't give a fuck, really. I mean, I look at it and I'm like, wow, man, eventually I'm going to have to just get a new phone or something. But I've never been motivated enough to actually look into doing it.
Yeah, as long as it works.
But she was, like, distraught at the thought of her phone not being available when she needed it, and was just like, I have to immediately handle this phone situation.
Yeah, it's
totally like I said, it's a totally, like, to me, it's just something that, like, if somebody took it away from me and was just like, all phones are banned,
you'd be like, darn, that sucks.
I'd be like, whoa, shit, back to jerking off in my computer chair, I guess. You know what I mean? But for her, like, she'd be like, fuck, no, you know, like.
Generational difference. It's not even like, you know, it's not even like a huge chasm of time either.
Yeah. My screen is cracked.
His screen is beyond cracked.
Yeah, like it started as one crack.
Like, it looks like someone just took a hammer and fucking just went boom one good time.
You know when it really became multiple cracks is I had one big crack that kind of grew, but it was just one crack. And then I had that Gorilla Glass shit on there, and I started looking at the crack and I was like, "You know what, dude? I think the cracks in this Gorilla Glass shit." I pulled it off, and it immediately spiderwebbed, and I was like, fuck! It wasn't! That Gorilla Glass was holding it together. Shit.
Damn, dude.
But whatever. I'm still using it.
I love it. I love Kentucky Fried Movie. I mean, not every bit is gold. Like, not all comedy ages well, but I like that movie. I like it better than I like Airplane, actually.
Yeah.
My favorite is Catholic High School Girls in Trouble because it's funny and arousing at the same time.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. You must see Catholic High School Girls in Trouble.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking awesome. There's a scene in there. It actually gave me a fetish. It shows her ass, and then a dude throws a pie at her ass. And I was like, I like that. I like the ass pie ratio. You know, I don't know.
Ass and pie, dude.
Yeah, you know, it was like a cream pie, not the porno cream pie, but the actual clown cream pie.
Yeah.
Here's a and they had like the weird shit. Like they were showing weird shit where it's like ostensibly this is for comedy, but actually it's probably someone who's writing its fetish or something. You know, with like there was like a weird midget like whipping these girls and shit. Like it was like it looked like a trailer for everything that those weird grindhouse movies that I watch promise to be but never are.
Right.
You know? And I was just so weird. I was like, I wish this was a real fucking movie. What's this movie? This is not a movie. It's a fake trailer for a movie called Catholic High School Girls in Trouble in Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yep.
Which is by the same dudes who did Airplane and some other big comedies in like the late 70s and 80s. I think the movie was in 1978, 1979, something like that.
Pause this conversation for just a minute.
All right.
I'm going to go and secure us some more.
Well, I'm going to go step out for a cigarette, but we'll be back for more.
You're going to put up the soon for him?
Yeah, I've been putting up like a video for him lately.
Oh, dude. I was thinking of a video that we could watch. Oh, you know what we could show them that would be kind of cool, like extra content?
What?
And we could just show them a little bit of it. You remember those clips from that little DP documentary that we shot? Do you want to show them a little bit of that?
Where is it?
You don't have it anymore?
Not on my computer.
What about emails and shit? That's how I have it. I could find it.
Yeah, we could show it. I mean, well, not right now, but you know.
Well, that would be one of the, because I have it like chopped up in little chunks and shit.
Oh, okay.
Pretty easily to.
So wait, what are you talking about? Maybe I'm thinking of something
the New Mexico.
Oh, I didn't even know that any part of that had been edited together at any.
No, it hasn't. I was just saying we could show them a little bit of the raw footage because we had a conversation like the one we were talking about. Remember in one of those videos?
No, I don't.
One of the things that he shot was like a conversation similar to the one that we're talking about right now. And that was like the first thing that he sent us, and it needed some heavy editing and shit, but it was pretty cool.
This is fun. I'll just play this.
Yeah, well, we'll find it for some other time.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, because I don't know where it is right now, but we could definitely find it and maybe use those clips as like break clips. Because I've been thinking like, I'd rather put on something they can actually watch than just like a, hey, soon thing.
Right.
Yeah, so back in a moment. Volume going out to you. I think the volume's actually on.
A piece of hate mail, and I've done it in the... one thing I don't do a lot of on my channel is I don't read a lot of fan mail, I don't read a lot of hate mail, especially not hate mail, because if you read a piece of hate mail, and I've done it in the past, what happens is 1,001 people see like, whoa, this is my chance for fame. I'm gonna write him a fake hate message so that he'll read mine on his video. You know, they write like intentionally the dumbest hate mail they possibly can in order to get, you know, attention in a video, and then I have to ignore like 1 billion messages. Dear fat, stupid gaytheist. Oh, he's bound to respond to this. You know, no, I'm not. I'm bound to delete it. I'm bound to see it for what it is and delete it immediately. But sometimes a piece of hate mail comes along that's worth dealing with a bunch of fake hate mail afterwards. And this is one of those times. I want to read to you a message from a guy named Anthony. The subject is from a former fan. So right off the bat, this person is basically yet another guy who's like, I unsubscribed from you and now I want your attention. Why? You're no longer giving me attention. Explain to me why I should give you attention. It's like, hey, I'm leaving, everybody. Bye! I'm getting the fuck out of here because this place sucks. It's like, well, go on. I'm gonna leave. But first, I just want to tell you guys how much I hate this fucking place. Why? Just leave. No one's trying to stop you. No one gives a shit. You don't see me sitting here like, oh God, no, Anthony, come back. My dearest Anthony, you were a fan to me. Won't you come back and watch my videos once more? I'm not doing that. I don't give a fuck. Bye. Sorry, but I refuse to capitalize your name. Oh, my name in lowercase letters. No! I wouldn't even have noticed that if you didn't point it out. You suck at disrespect. That's like at me like, hey Anthony, I'm not gonna cross the T in your name. Now it looks like Anlony. My name is Anthony, and I've been a fan of yours for about 2 years now, but no more. Very dramatic. I've been a fan of yours for 2 years now, period, but no more, period. But no more is its own sentence. This kid writes with dramatic flair, like, but no more. Like, oh, like everything about this thus far makes you think of someone who really believes their words have far more impact than they actually do. Like, it's like literally someone standing up in the middle of Denny's and being like, I have been coming to Denny's for 2 years, but no more! These eggs are cold! Who's with me? Through these 2 years of watching your videos and reading your posts and tuning in to Blog TV to watch you, I have seen you make very good points against organized religion, government, and society. Well, if I'm making very good points, where are you going? What more do you want? I'm a vlogger whose entire existence is like built around making points about things, hopefully good ones, and you agree, they're good. I'm making good points. Why are you leaving? Come back, Anthony. I'm sorry about what I said earlier. You're cool. Come on back. I welcome you back into my fold. You can come rest your head upon my bosom, and I will stroke your hair. My beautiful child. But I have never seen you come up with any logical solutions to the problems. Instead, it's just dirty ranting and trying to make people look stupid for what they're doing. Okay, well, let's cover all this. Number one, I don't offer any solutions. I don't even know what to say to this. I don't offer any solutions. I'll be right back. Okay, this is an orgy of George. It's the 3 George Carlin books combined into one basic book. And here's the preface, I don't know, to Brain Droppings. I frankly don't give a fuck how it all turns out in this country, or anywhere else for that matter. I think the human game was up a long time ago when the high priest and traders took it over, and now we're just playing out the string. And that is, of course, precisely what I find so amusing, the slow circle of the drain by a once promising species, and the sappy, ever more desperate belief in this country that there is actually some sort of American dream, which has merely been misplaced. The decay and disintegration of this culture is astonishingly amusing if you are emotionally detached from it. I have always viewed it from a safe distance, knowing that I don't belong. It doesn't include me, and it never has. 2, you turn into grandma all of a sudden? What's with this dirty ranting thing? Like, oh, I don't like him. He's always doing the dirty ranting. With his F-bombs and S-bombs and B-bombs and A-bombs and all kinds of letter bombs. Just dropping. What? Dirty ranting? Oh, boo fucking who? Are you a man? Are you a fucking man, Anthony? Or are you like a little girl? Like, ooh, he said a bad word. Okay, and then what was your last point? Something about fucking horse shit? Making people look stupid. Well, you got me there. I'm making someone look stupid right about now, actually. You've even gone out of your way to make sure that your own fans get the same treatment in some cases. Your fans! Your fans! Your fans! All caps, multiple exclamation points. Your fans! Like you're Charlton Heston kneeling before the Statue of Liberty. Oh! Why?
Misogynist. Misogynist. You miss bad advices. Well, not enough to remember that it's called the wrong advices, apparently. Put old TJ back on. He's right there at my channel. You can go watch him anytime. Go enjoy that. This music, my jam. Weirdo. You weird. Remember Jefferson Bethke? Yeah, how could I forget? How could I forget old Jefferson Bethke, dude? Threatened to DMCA me.
Jefferson Bethke.
I had to fucking agree to do this charity with him. I'm like, dude, instead of fighting, let's get together and work for charity. You know, because he was like threatening to DMCA my video.
Yeah.
I'm like, see if I can get this fucker on my side. And then he's like, yeah, turn it into something positive. And then that never happened, thankfully. So.
Thank goodness.
And he never DMCA'd me, though. So.
Why do you idiots keep typing cumb?
They just like it. That's their thing. It's their thing now.
Cumb. It's like, what a dumb.
I wish I was as smart as TJ. Well, you never will be. Too bad. Here you go. You know what I hate? Common sense. People keep telling me, like, now criticizing Jordan Peterson in any capacity has made me hate common sense. Because I keep getting told, dude, everything he's saying is common sense. Common sense. I'm like, well, if it's common sense, then why does he have to write a fucking book about it?
Yeah.
Because people have lost their way from common sense. Like, maybe common sense is just like, this is what makes sense to me, so I think it's common sense.
And there's no maybe.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
I know. It's a sarcastic fucking
right.
maybe.
Right.
There is no maybe. That is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, that's not... Fuck your common sense.
There's a lot of shit about him.
And you know
man.
what the fucking crazy thing is? If someone can fucking convince these people of this common sense bullshit, they can say anything.
Yeah.
Anything. It doesn't even matter if the person who's hearing it never thought that before in their lives. All of a sudden, if it's
like a weird combination of like street smarts hucksterism and intellectual ivory towerism. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the dude that's super smart, but you know what? Despite being a really brilliant intellectual, when you listen to him, everything he's saying is just common sense.
That's what I'm saying.
No. I mean, that don't make no sense.
That don't make no sense, common or otherwise.
Yeah. Dude, one of the things that I really like, I'm sure you'll find I hope, maybe not on the book, but I hope you find a way on your channel or something to take a look at least some of those insane fucking comments on those videos of him, particularly the ones where he cries.
Oh, it'll be in the book.
They are over the top in a way that I don't even think we could parody here.
No.
You know what I mean?
Like, it was stuff that, like, I thought it was parody at first.
Yeah. But it's not.
Yeah, I mean, like, the stuff that gets said about Jordan Peterson is creepy. And I'd think that if I went to my comment section and I saw that shit, I'd be like, what's wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? No one should be that filled with adulation for some demagogue that's just fucking proselytizing.
They're talking. It's almost like you're reading a really bad interpretation of a movie script where somebody's eulogizing some important figure in the fictional history of this universe or whatever the fuck. They're just like, you know, I mean, it's literally this over the top and probably more. It's like,
here stands a man, not a strong man, although I wouldn't say that physical discipline is the only measure of a man. But here stands a man, ladies and gentlemen, a good man, a true man, a desperately yearning for knowledge man.
You know what I mean? It just goes on and on and on, and it's just like, who are we even talking about here anymore? Like, I fucking absolutely worship some fucking, you know, entertainers and thinkers and shit, and I would never accidentally talk about them that way. Yeah. It's like the way that you worship Manson. Like, would you ever catch yourself being in like a chat going like,
ladies and gentlemen, here is a man, a drunk man.
No, I did about Brett Keane, and I learned my lesson.
Yeah, that was the last time you gave somebody a pre-eulogy.
Yeah.
Here stands a man.
I'm like, oh, wait, the person I made that speech about was a total piece of shit.
Yeah.
So
but that just shows
that
you
was a
you were young
experience.
as fuck, too.
Yeah, you know, and it was
and
like...
that's...
Yeah.
those are the people that are fucking looking at Peterson and going...
at least they got Peterson. I have fucking Brett Keane to live down.
You got a point there.
You know. It's not like you're in that same boat with me, though. I mean, not to the same extent, because you never made that speech.
Yeah,
but
I never gobbled the manatee's cock that hard.
No.
But, I mean, whatever. I did a little.
But you know what? You did hang on to it a little longer.
I did. I defended him way longer than you did. That is for sure. I will admit that.
Joe Rogan had a black NRA advocate on who said Jordan Peterson is today's Nietzsche, and Joe didn't disagree. Well, I mean, Joe's had fucking... what's his face? Jordan Peterson on his fucking show like 3 times or 2 times or something. So, I mean, obviously, I don't think Joe Rogan has on his show people that he doesn't like.
Oh, and I'm not saying Joe doesn't call people out, but he's way more apt to let people talk and just do the
Yeah.
like he did with Pauly Shore when Pauly Shore claimed he invented MTV and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pauly Shore's on there and he's like, you know, I started that whole thing, bro. You know, like the whole MTV thing. And instead of going, no, you didn't, Joe was like, oh yeah. Like, and he tried to smooth it over by like putting somebody else in there. He's like, yeah, you and who did he say? Carson? Who did he say? Anyway,
Dennis Leary.
Oh yeah, he was like, yeah, you and Dennis Leary, you know, really had some foundational stuff on MTV. And he was like, yeah, well, you know, Dennis Leary did some stuff, bro, but like, you know, I was really like the guy.
Yeah. No, what he said was like, yeah, Dennis had some movies, but really, it's like, what?
Yeah, and you know, Joe like is a type of guy that I know he at least was thinking like, this is total bullshit, but he's probably smart enough to go like, well, it's way more entertaining for me to just let Pauly Shore spin this stupid web. You know what I mean?
Pauly Shore is a comedic genius, not Hicks and Carlin. Well, maybe history will appraise it that way, sir. I don't know.
Yeah. Go tell your kids to watch my movies, buddy. What the weasel? Ask them what their favorite part was, please.
TJ dead. I think Peterson's philosophy is mostly centered around a dominance hierarchy wherein Jungian archetypes are manifestations of the most successful mating strategies. See, I can't tell if that was a serious comment or you're just trying to sound...
Yeah, I can't tell if that's like you actually typed that or if you went and found some copy pasta somewhere and just put Jordan Peterson in it.
Yeah, that's how I kind of feel. Needless to say, I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, you're gonna have to fucking I'm sorry to say, but you're gonna have to dumb it down a little bit, homie.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to.
I feel like I'm familiar enough with most of those concepts.
Yeah, because I mean, could you give a more like down to earth overview of what you believe like Nietzsche's philosophy was?
Yeah,
go.
Okay. Let me think about this, because he liked to be verbose.
Right.
But, I mean, from what I read, the main tenets, like, of the Beyond Good and Evil is, like, there's this master morality that kind of developed from, like, the times before Christianity.
Right.
And he considers Christianity like a slave morality, because it's all about... And it's really about, like, the power dynamics of here's the morality that's coming from the top down versus here's the morality that's coming from the bottom up. Mm-hmm. But the slave morality kind of, like, enshrines suffering as a good thing, because if you go, like, to, like, a museum in, like, Amsterdam or something and you look at early Christian art, it's like, so they fetishize suffering to such a degree.
Because the Bible fetishizes
now
suffering.
Christianity's kind of taken this turn for, like, the prosperity theology and shit. Jesus is gonna treat you right and all this stuff. The early Christians, they believed totally different things because they were persecuted.
Right.
And their morality came out of that persecution, and it was almost like the more persecution you can take, the better you are. That's why Mother Teresa fetishized the suffering of those people in Calcutta and shit.
Yeah, but she was just a vestige of Christianity that didn't really have much of a face anymore.
Right, but people still venerated her and shit.
Well, of course,
Even
yeah,
though
but
she
there's
had that fetishizing of suffering. But it was the publicity was spun in such a way of, like, she's helping these people, but
Right.
really, like, if you look at it, she really wasn't helping those people.
yeah, there was this counter publicity too that tried to paint her like she was a pretty awful person, but like she was just doing what Christians before her
But
had
what
done.
Nietzsche was saying was basically, okay, we've had this master morality, and it's defunct now. We have this slave morality currently, and it needs to be defunct as well. And so what do we do from there? And his answer was basically one of the things I was pushing in my last chapter of my book, which is everybody has to really work to develop their own moral consciousness.
Right.
Because we can't just buy into these fucking existing systems anymore.
Right.
Because all that's going to lead to is this division in humanity we see, and this into classes. Like, he was fighting against the dominance hierarchy, even though what he wanted was for people to ascend to a higher state, to be as far beyond human beings as human beings are beyond, like, a chimpanzee.
Right.
So he wanted to bring forth that next level of evolution, and he felt like the only way people could do it is working on individual perfection to that extent.
Okay.
And forcing evolution's hand to pushing us into a higher rank.
The Ubermensch.
Yeah.
Got it.
The Nietzschean Superman. There was a bunch of other little things in his philosophies and stuff. I mean, obviously...
I asked you
it's hugely encompassing, and he
boil it
spoke on
down.
tons of different things.
Yeah.
There's not, like, one big overarching punch, but if you're really talking about Nietzsche in terms of, like, moral philosophy and stuff, that's where he was there.
Let me ask you something about... You mentioned something in the chapter of your book that you just released.
Yeah.
How do you address the evolutionary basis for morality argument?
How do I do what to it?
Have you heard it?
I mean, I talk about it in the chapter.
But you said that the chapter is kind of ultimately pointing towards you have to decide what morality means to you.
Right.
I don't necessarily disagree, but I do believe that there are some foundational things about morality that need to be addressed.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I got into that example of the cavemen. You remember that?
Okay, yeah.
Because I look into the evolution of morality argument. I find this guy, Tom, some foreign name, who's this big evolutionary biologist and shit. And he's studying primate morality. He's studying the chimps and trying to figure out what their moral systems are and shit. And, like, because there's this idea of, like, well, if it exists within us, then probably a more primitive version exists in them. Mm-hmm. So it's like a way to study where did we get our morality from, even though they're, we're obviously not from chimps, but they're from the same ancestral line. We can learn a bit about ourselves by observing them.
Right.
Seeing how they work, we know a little bit more about how we work. And there was a series of traits he listed as, like, this is the foundational building blocks of morality. And I showed how every one of those traits could easily lead to two people to murder another for their possessions. So, I mean, like, yeah, those can be building blocks of morality. But since there's all these different moralities, like compassion, that's good morality.
What about just...
But that's not always been good morality. There's been times when brutality is considered good morality.
Compassion. What about empathy? What about just base empathy?
Well, like
that's the one that I find it hard to explain away because we see that in way lower animals.
Yeah.
So there is something very lizard brain about even empathy.
Sure.
There's something there.
Well,
something
I mean,
like
if you get into the whole like mirror neurons thing, it's like part of it's like a learning thing. If you see someone else doing something, if you identify with them, you can learn to do it too.
Right.
And another part of it's like we're social animals. We're designed to live in cohabitation. We're not solitary in nature. So it makes sense, like, if you see someone else from your tribe or from your family, or the closer they are to you, the more you feel the empathy. If you see them, get hurt, it's more advantageous for the collective if you're like, hey, are you all right?
Right.
And take care of them, because then the collective is healthier because that member is undamaged and being taken care of.
There's a more selfish aspect to empathy, though.
Oh, sure.
Empathy is more about taking that person's pain and painting it on yourself.
Right. It's about
it's about experiencing it vicariously.
It gets back to the qualia thing I was talking about earlier. Like, we can't experience each other's qualia.
Right.
Like, that's not possible. I can't feel what it's like to be Paul. You can't feel what it's like to be TJ.
But it seems that empathy is rooted in the mind attempting to do that in some way.
Right. It's me saying, like, if I was in Paul's shoes, even if I don't know what you feel like, I have to try to kind of figure it out. Like, okay, well, Paul thinks this way and I think this way, so how is Paul perceiving this differently from how I'm perceiving it?
Yeah.
So there's an intellectual exercise there, too, as well as just the natural emotional aspect of empathy. But yeah, I mean, you have no choice but to transpose your own ego in it because you can't understand it otherwise.
Right.
Because there's no way for me to know what's it like to be Paul. There's no way for you to know what's it like to be TJ. So we just have to do the best we can with our imaginations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's necessarily an element of egotism. You have to be able to put yourself in that person so that you could be like, whoa, if that was happening to me, I'd want their help, or I'd want them to feel this way, or I'd want them to express this to me, or whatever.
Right. I don't know. It's one of those, it's one of those topics that it's fun to. I don't speak on it with any authority, but it's fun to kind of.
I mean, I don't believe the older I get, the less I believe in the concept of authority. I mean, I already have a pathological aversion to authority.
I don't want to undercut people that are learned in this. You know what I mean? There are definitely people out there that would be better to sit and talk about.
I mean, there's a better person to do everything for most people. I mean, like, who cares?
I mean, no, I agree with you to an extent. It doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, like, I don't want to... I'm afraid that
no one's going to mistake us for experts.
No. It's not even that. It's that, I don't want people to think that I'm trying to portray myself as that. I'm so shy because of the internet now. Because I just don't want to find a clip tomorrow of, like, Paul thinking he knows the answer to everything or some shit. Like, I'm just a dork. I'm just a stoned fuck sitting here trying to understand things I never will, That's all.
But most people won't.
Well, whatever.
And in fact, I don't know if anyone will. So,
no such thing as authority. Whatever. I mean, you might be right about that.
That's how I feel increasingly. I don't know.
You gotta
if I fully have gone into that.
You gotta fucking forgive me because I'm a product of my environment as much as I am my chasing, a philosophy. So, whatever. I still think that people that dedicate a lot of their lives to learning about a subject ought to be venerated in that subject. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Even if they end up being wrong.
My objection is not even so much to the learning. It's the limitations put on how you can learn something. I think that there's a lot of fucking people who are artificial gatekeepers of a lot of these subjects.
Mm-hmm.
In
what way?
To the point where if we want to discuss some fucking philosophy or some science or anything like that, we have to constantly grovel at the feet of, well, these are the experts. These are the experts. Like, okay, fine. They're the experts, you know?
Right.
That's great. They're the fucking experts. Let them be the experts. Go listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
We're having a conversation at our level of understanding of the fucking world. We're trying to learn new things. We're trying to explore new ideas.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to come and like look at that and be like, "Whoa, these pseudo-intellectual," like whatever. Who gives a shit?
I never like.
I don't care.
I don't want to be. I never want to be perceived as an intellectual. I'm not learned in anything other than being Paul's ego enough to be called that. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, it's one of those things that like the internet sometimes will beat this fucking bullshit into you. And you start to be kind of like, you get battered woman syndrome or like Stockholm syndrome or some shit, you know? You start to just change things about the way you approach. Because like, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't give a fuck about the fact that I don't know a whole lot about a lot of the things we're talking about here tonight. And I'm exploring things and kind of learning as I go. But the internet makes you care about that shit because people demand like, oh my fucking God, dude, Paul God, you know what I mean? It's just like an endless list of fucking corrections and people lining up to tell you why you're wrong about this. And I'm just like, look, I'm just a dude that doesn't know much about anything, quandering things about the universe that, you know.
But the thing is, like, though, but most of their corrections are just overly pedantic, literal-minded.
Why do people get off on that? On one hand, I get the kind of emotional feedback that comes with correcting somebody. I like when somebody's wrong about something and I get to go, as much as the next guy. But I'm not presenting this as some kind of fucking like, show this to your kids so they can learn about physics and morality and evolution. And
I know what the problem with chat rooms is.
What's that?
I know what the problem is because, like I said, we're a social species and shit.
Uh-huh.
And if these people were like a true collective, you wouldn't have this shit going on unless you did something that was just horrible.
Yeah.
They would just, one person would say it and like, okay, he's heard now. You know? But with this shit, like, because you've never been sitting there at a fucking dinner or something and, you know, you say something wrong and someone's like, oh, well, actually this. And you're like, oh. And then it's not typical that everyone else will suddenly start piling, unless they're just fucking with you.
Right.
And they're trying to get your goat.
Mm-hmm.
But here, they just do it with everything. And it's like, each of them just views themselves as independently, like, I'm talking to this person.
Right.
So instead of being corrected one time for the entire group, every member of the group is like, actually this, actually this, actually this, actually this, actually this. And you're like, oh my God, I know. Why am I under siege for this? So it feels like, oh, it's this huge assault by the entire community. But it's just like everyone just thinks of themselves as acting autonomously and individually to some extent. So they just view it as like, this is what I'm doing. And they don't see that from us, it's like, here's this big collective all saying this at once, you know?
Right.
So I think that's part of the fucking issue. And then sometimes they just are fucking with you and they want to piss you off.
Have you ever like indulged the conversation and tried to have a back and forth and see why you're so wrong with any of them? Because I've done it on occasion.
That's a waste of time.
Oh my God, dude! Every time. Why? Because I'm so open to learning something. I really am.
They've got nothing.
It's so stupid.
They've got nothing. Because here's what you do. Someone says, you fucking wrong. It's like, all right, I'm wrong. Okay, tell me why. 99% of the time, silence. Nothing happens. The other percent of the time, the 1% where they do fucking do it, it's like the Vegas shit that doesn't address shit. It's just like, well, you know, it's common sense.
You know who's the king of that shit? And I know you fucking sparred with him before, Director up in this shit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, he is a dude. Like, he'll sit and listen to what the vibe in the chat is, right?
Yeah.
And he'll come up with this thing, and you can tell he's edited it out, and then he hits enter. And because I've gone to him so many times, I see his little shit icon or whatever. My little monkey brain is trained to fucking go to that again, right? And I read it, and it's, you know, some stupid fucking argument. And I challenge him on it, and it just falls to fucking pieces immediately. And I think I've seen you spar with him before.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, why are you still around? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what part of you gets off on being wrong over and over and over and over and
I
over
think
again?
that there's genuinely like I think his belief is like, wow, I'm super smart. These guys don't get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're just wrong. And he walks away from the exchange feeling the same way you do. Like, man, I fucking destroyed Paul.
Yeah.
I fucking annihilated TJ. And it's always dog shit. It's universally bad argument. I mean, you know, he's got the handicap of a fucking chat, so maybe he thinks he's putting way more intentionality into things than he actually is through the limitations of this medium or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. He's not making the strong case that he thinks he is most of the time.
Just weird.
But was JewWario a rapist? I once again do not know if JewWario was a rapist. He never raped me. I can attest to that. I never knew him. I never met him. I never spoke with him in any capacity.
I played a couple of his video
But-
games.
Did you? Oh, no, actual Wario, yeah.
Well, are we talking about a different guy?
Yeah, JewWario.
I thought the Wario in the video games was a Jew.
Just was already Jewish?
Yeah. No, I don't know anything about JewWario.
I don't
but
really either.
I've
The
heard
only thing-
other
I
people
remember
crying about him.
The first time I heard about him was he had committed suicide.
Yeah.
That was and then people were like, oh, JewWario's dead. I'm like, who? And then I looked him up. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, no sweat off my balls. I never knew him. You know,
Right.
I'm not concerned. I never knew him in life. From what I could see, I wouldn't have been a fan of his videos, so I was just kind of like, whatever. And now, all of a sudden, years after he's fucking dead and who cares, maybe he was a rapist for some reason that I've not even bothered to look into. I remember when I watched my first Carlin special, It's Bad For You, class. That was his last special. Last one he ever did before dying. Pretty sharp still.
We missed a Streamlabs. Somebody says, yo, TJ and Paul, love tonight's DFF. Good content. Wondering if you guys considered doing an episode or two dedicated to John Doe and Jane Doe cold cases.
So like unsolved mysteries, basically.
Yeah, have you ever seen their facial reconstructions, Uncanny Valley?
I have. I watch a lot of Forensic Files, so I know a bit about that shit.
Might be kind of cool if we could find like a real big compilation of John and Jane Doe sketches and talk about some of the more famous John and Jane Does of
I have a strong
history.
Yeah, I like that idea. I have a strong urge in me, and I've talked to you about it before, to do a fucking Forensic Files parody. And I feel like I understand enough about the structure of the show to do it justice. But I just can't figure out how I could make it funnier than actually watching Forensic Files.
I know
You know what?
mean.
Here's the thing. And it's the most base fucking thing in the world, but there are some weird-looking motherfuckers on that show occasionally that are doing interviews. Because, like, a lot of times, like, even for reality TV and stuff, you don't really see the kind of people I'm talking about because there's, like, a lot of people involved in, like, criminal shit, like, dregs of society kind of people. So you get to see, like, the intimate thoughts of retarded, stupid, average people.
Right.
From all walks of life and all different corners of American subcultures and shit. And that's my favorite part of that show. Other than just the calming nature of the fucking narrator's voice.
See, I don't know why you don't like more documentaries. I know you don't hate documentaries, but you don't watch a lot of them.
I'll tell you why.
You get so much of that slice of life shit. You get so much of that intimate look at what people in weird subcultures that you would never even know existed are thinking and doing with their time and lives. I love that, dude.
Everything that you see has an editorial slant or perspective. Like, when I watch Forensic Files, it kind of tries on some level to be like, this is just the facts and stuff.
But it's pro-police, pro-law enforcement.
It's not always pro-police, honestly. They actually let some real criticisms of, like, cops and shit onto that show.
When cops do something wrong.
No, just in general.
Oh, really?
Just in general. Like,
See, you've watched way more than me.
just
so.
in general, they'll allow criticisms of, like they had this kid that was talking about how they found this body, and he was talking about, yeah, the cop that I fucking told just said like, oh, now I got to do paperwork and shit. Why'd you even report this? Is like pissed that they reported this murdered body.
Yeah.
And it wasn't they could have cut that out and just left, because it was not an important or integral part of the story in any way.
Yeah.
They just left it in because they're like, yeah, fuck that cop.
Yeah.
You know, so they're not afraid to do that. But there's an ideological perspective in that show that is very much, I can tell, targeted towards old, God-fearing conservative people.
Okay.
Not in an overt way, but just in a vaguely pandery way, where it's like kind of designed for their sensibilities in ways that are subtly detectable here and there.
I feel like you could apply that to a lot of things and a lot of shows.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. But this is just part of my point about documentaries and stuff. Like, there's always there's something about someone showing me reality through their slant that inherently disconcerts me. Like, and it's a way, like, I feel like with like straight up fiction and stuff, there's this barrier. If I'm reading it or I'm just hearing it spoken to me, there's this barrier. But when a documentarian actually says, okay, I'm going to show you reality through my eyes, it's like one step too far into their skin for me to some extent, where it's like, I want to see reality through my eyes. I don't trust your eyes.
Right.
And maybe that's hubris. It probably is. But I can't help that disconcerting sort of feeling it gives me.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I don't really empathize, because I've always looked at it's a story. I've always talked to you about hot sauce and storytelling and shit.
Sure.
And that's always just a given to me. I just look at a documentary, somebody telling me a story about something that happened.
Yeah.
And I assume that 90% of it's probably bullshit.
But it's the presentation that I don't like.
It depends, though. It's so various in documentaries.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? There are some that drive me up a fucking wall. I'll never watch them. And there are some that are like some of the things I see you watching on fucking YouTube sometimes.
That's why I like Michael Moore's documentaries.
Yeah.
Because to me, he it doesn't feel so much like he's showing me the world through his eyes. It feels like he's telling me like a long sort of like joke that maybe sometimes it has sad parts, but there's also absurdity and humor and stuff. And it feels more like he's conversing with me rather than trying to make me perceive. I mean, he is trying to convince me of an argument, but he's not trying to make me see it through his eyes necessarily.
Yeah.
Like he wants it to be a conversation between me and him. I feel like some of these documentaries are really trying to make me. They're trying to bend reality for me the way they present.
Oh, all of them are.
Yeah.
All of them are. Every documentarian has an agenda, no matter how aloof, no matter how much they want to think of themselves as God's eye in the sky and what happens. Every documentary worth watching of note has an editorial process.
Absolutely.
And that removes it from reality right there. I mean, you got to make that. See, I have this thing with the willing suspension of disbelief that I wonder if you share.
All right, let's see.
For me, if something is truly great in terms of fiction, and it really applies to movies and TV shows, I guess. If something's not going to be just good but great, it has to work its magic on me to the point where while I'm in its spell, while I'm watching it, I just don't exist anywhere else. Like, it's just like I've given myself over to this piece of fiction.
Yeah.
That's the willing suspension of disbelief for me. Right. I get that in theater as well. You can be sitting in a big audience of people, sitting way in the back, and those house lights go down and the stage lights come up. And the longer you watch a play, that little box of the world that shows you, all those people in front of you disappear.
Yeah.
And it just becomes a void, and that becomes reality. Movies do that to you, too, on a certain level.
Yeah. Well, the thing about film like that for me, and literature too, I guess, it's like you could be watching a movie that is very technically well made, maybe even has some impressive shots or cinematography, maybe even has some clever writing, and just be like, It's not really casting the spell, though. Like, there's something missing where it ain't casting that spell on me.
Yeah.
Where I'm having that total, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm not anywhere else. I'm not like, my fucking taxes or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just there with the movie.
Yeah.
You know, there's films that seem like they should be bringing me there, but I'm not there. And then there's films that don't do that. That, like, we watched a movie, you were kind of talking about The Neon Demon.
Yeah.
Not a critically well-liked film, but you were like, I vouch, this is worth watching.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and I was like, man, that fucking sucked dick. But, man, it kind of like, over the next few days, I kept finding my mind going back to shit from it. So I'm like, okay, well, this obviously did have an effect.
Yeah.
It was like something that had to unravel in my brain a little bit.
That's exactly what happened to me when I first watched
and that's a cool experience. That happened to me with Catcher in the Rye. Like that was another one. I wasn't forced to read it for school. I just kind of read it at that age because I was like, what is the big deal about this thing? Mm-hmm. And I read it. I'm like, man, I fucking hate this piece of shit. This is the fucking worst book I've ever read. It was miserable. It was a fucking horrible experience. The main character is totally fucking unlikable. Everything's fucking dog shit. There's no fucking point. It just goes from thing to thing. Whatever. Fuck this book. And then it's like, for the next month and a half, I'm like constantly just thinking about that book. Like, what the fuck was with that book, man? You know? So, like sometimes, like, even if it doesn't cast that spell then, like, you don't realize it has fucking done its job.
Other examples of that in your life?
Not many.
Not a whole lot?
Not a whole lot.
Or something has, like, landed its hooks in you over time. You immediately... Juno, really?
Yeah.
I liked that the first time I watched it. I'm a fag.
Like, what the fuck is this quirky? I hate this quirky shit. Fuck this. This is dumb. But, I found myself, like, thinking about the movie more and more as, like, the next few days. I'm like, you know what? That was there's some fun moments in it. It was well written. It was fucking well acted. I mean, what the fuck's my problem with it,
Yeah.
And, these themes are interesting. Maybe it was just, like, my misogyny keeping me from identifying with the pregnancy or whatever the fuck. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there was some barrier initially, but it kind of, like, grew on me in my memory and my recollections. Sometimes happens with a fucking movie.
Yeah.
I would never watch The Neon Demon again, though, I don't think.
You have any music artists that did that to you?
I didn't really understand Pink Floyd or Tool the first time I listened to them.
I immediately like those. There have been times, though, that it's happened to me a couple of times with music. The first big time one was my friend Morgan showed me Frank Zappa for the first time.
Yeah.
And I'd never really, I might have heard something, but I'd never really considered Frank Zappa. And I heard it, and he's here showing me all this weird shit. Watch out where the Huskies go, and don't you eat that yellow snow. And I'm just like, this is dopey and fucking dumb. Like, why are you wasting my time with this?
Yeah.
But I went to school the next day. We were in high school when it happened. I was like 16 or some shit. I went to high school the next day, and I'd be walking around like, watch out where the Huskies go, and don't you eat that yellow snow. And I'm just like, what the fuck? So I was like, Morgan, can you burn me one of those CDs or something, dude? Just give me all your Frank Zappa. And he's like, yeah, dude, yeah. You're into it? And I was like, no, I hate it. But I want to know why it won't get out of my head. So he gave me all his Frank Zappa, and I did the same tour he gave me of it, and I started to hear how fastidious everything he did was. And I started to hear, like, this is like Mozart if he'd have had access to all of these fucking instruments and shit and vocal recording and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was like a composer to the T, and he's one of my favorite musical artists now, but I fucking hated him the first few times I listened to his music. But it was that same idea. It just itched at the back of my mind. You know what I mean? Something about it got a hook in me, and I was like, no, but I hate it.
It's almost like some part of you that you don't, like, maybe you didn't really express or know was there before that. It's kind of like what I was talking earlier about the doors opening and shit. Like, oh, this big moment. And it's not always in the form of that epiphany. Sometimes it's something that comes on more slowly in you,
Yeah.
And
I feel like a lot of people have had that moment with bands that I just never had that moment with. Like the Beatles.
Yeah.
I appreciate the Beatles. I'm not saying.
I mean, I do too.
But I never had that, like, oh my God, this is the symphony. You know what I mean?
I don't have the reverence, like there's some good songs in the catalog.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I'm sure that there is a fucking brilliance there that people are fucking seeing and shit. And
Norwegian Wood, dude.
What?
Norwegian Wood.
What is that?
That's just a song I really like by the Beatles.
Oh, I don't think I've heard it. I have a feeling they have abandoned us and delved in their own world. Well, yeah, that's kind of what this one is. I was away about Die Antwoord. They've grown on me a bit.
I mean, they still make some shit like that. I watched their latest video.
Yeah.
Don't even bother. It's unwatchable. It's like this weird club music shit. It's awful. Like, but I don't know. Whatever. I like some of the shit that they've done, and I'll check it out. And if it sucks, it sucks. You know, I don't have a whole lot of emotional investment in the things that I dig. I dig Die Antwoord or whatever the fuck because they've made several
weird music videos.
Yeah, weird music videos and several songs that I think are actually kind of cool.
Yeah. I find myself fucking humming that Cookie Thumper shit, like da na 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 na. Yeah, you know. Gotta drop acid, then listen to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
See, I wouldn't waste an acid trip on the Beatles.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what I
how
mean?
I feel. I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, acid trips are long, so, you know, maybe I could give it a shot.
You got to space them out, and you got to have a supply. It's just, you know, acid trips are things that just kind of happen to you, you don't curate them.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, you know, that's one of the things that, like, I really like about our friendship and how it developed is that, you know, both of us kind of curated an acid trip or two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that was interesting. We had some interesting conversations. It's hard to reproduce those, but we had some interesting things.
I wouldn't want to try to reproduce a conversation that already happened.
I mean, it would dude, it would be scary above all things.
What?
to like think about if you had an actual record of everything we said to each other that night, dude. It would be like listening to like Willy Wonka on acid or some shit. It would be. I'm glad, you know what I mean.
I remember us sitting over a fucking campfire thing, and it was like the cinders. It was down to the cinders.
Yeah.
And like, you were fucking in this like bitter god fantasy and shit, where it was like, I don't remember what exactly it was. It was like we saw the cosmos in it, and you'd spit in it to like turn out little embers and shit. Like, there's another universe gone.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm God now. You know.
Yeah.
And it's like real dark, and you're like lit, real dramatic and shit, just kind of staring angrily at this fucking thing. Like, all of your fucking fury was down in it, and you're just like, fucking this shit.
Yeah.
And when it started getting too dark, you'd go in and fucking stomp on it some more. Like, you get here, take some more creation, fuckers, you know?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Being an asshole.
Oh my God.
He just invited this to start again.
Well, he started walking on the damn keyboard.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, the LSD shit.
Yeah.
Well, that was, what was that shit?
Ganesha. Whatever
Pretty
the fuck
similar
that
to
is.
I don't know if that's a type of acid or what is that. Ketamine? No, I don't think I ever have.
I have been around people that have done ketamine. So, what? I don't know, dude. I don't want to get into the what drugs have you done conversation because it just spins out of fucking control.
Yeah, then it's just like you're just talking about like, yeah, man, I've done this, not done that.
It's just like, ugh, I've already done this a bunch of times and it's boring.
Definitely better than the usual ideology shit tier conversation. Well, that's because we're mostly ignoring you. I mean, you know, let's be honest here. Does anyone have anything to say that's, well, what do you, she's Cat's like, shut up.
I know, like, bitch,
Enough
I'm
of your
going to lick your nose.
Bullshit. Hello.
Yep. He just wants to lick you.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Squeaks is huge, dude. He's going to be a nightmare. He's going to be like a panther in the house or some shit. And he's going to be doing this, but like... As a giant 25-pound panther. Oh, dude, relax, everybody. Mendacious C is here.
He says that every time.
I know. I just wanted to let it... And I do relax when he comes in, too.
Yeah, I'm just like...
It's like one of those things where he gives us a couple.
Mendacious C is here, so we don't have to try anymore.
He gives us a couple Zealand bucks, and I'm instantly like, all right, cool. Mendacious C is here. No need to worry about nothing. Here he be. I really like Mendacious C, dude. He's one of my favorite commenters.
Please, if we get this from ignoring the chat, never talk to us again.
What?
They're saying that they prefer this much more than us.
Then let's stop reading what they're saying then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, can you just go away? You're cumbersome.
You know what, dude? We were talking earlier about how, like, the chat and facing it so often can, like, abuse you into doing this, that, or the other thing. And then the comments. There's so many compound things nowadays that you're paying. There's so many fucking ways for assholes to get their opinion to you as a content creator. It's like comments on the shit you make. Now, I don't want to shut that shit down, but you're expected to, like, look at those from time to time. And when I do, a lot of them are positive. And see, that's just my natural, like inclination to pursue the negative. When that negative one is there, I read it and I'm just like, fuck. So usually I just get mad, but sometimes I internalize them. And one of the ones that I internalized a long time ago, right at the start of us doing Cinema for Cynics. And I don't even remember what comment it was. I couldn't go back and find it. I didn't ban the guy or anything. I just read it, and it fucking got my goat.
Yeah.
And, when you're fucking exposed to all that shit, eventually somebody's going to get your goat. But I'll tell you what the gist of it was. The gist of it is like, dude, what the fuck right does Paul have to criticize film? He doesn't know anything about movies. Like, blah, blah, blah. It was one of those, right?
Yeah.
And,
another gatekeeper.
Yeah. And I was like, but it got my goat. Because I forced myself to go like, yeah, well, what? He's right. And it's true. To a certain extent, he is fucking right, dude. I have a very narrow knowledge of movies.
Yeah.
When it comes to the broad scope of the films that have been made, and even when it comes to, like, the big seminal works of film and shit. I haven't watched all that shit.
Yeah, but there's more than one approach to fucking criticism.
I know, but you got to understand how this comment.
Yeah,
and ones like it, because there were others on other. You know what I mean?
Because you have the insecurity of like, well, do I really know enough to do this?
It's all about credibility for me.
Yeah,
and I'm not with Cinema for Cynics or anything that I do with you guys or anything. I've never tried to present myself as like a professional anything. Other than maybe like a professional dude that sits around and talks for hours about different topics and shit. I guess maybe I could claim that.
I'm a professional blabbermouth.
But you know what I mean? I wouldn't even do that. I'm a, you know what I mean? I do what I do.
Right.
And I don't care about that, professionalism or any of that shit. I don't care. I don't care to have that little ego badge.
Yeah.
My name's Paul's Ego, but that little ego badge, I don't care to have. I'm not looking for it. I would never ascribe it to myself. But there are people out there that want that kind of content from me.
Yeah.
And I feel like I need to appease those people. The whole reason I'm bringing this up is it's impeded my work on Cinema for Cynics. Because I feel like when I'm writing for the channel, I have to appease something that I can't.
Yeah, like,
you know what I mean?
Gotta give these people my best go at being
and I
this
really
thing
just
they want me to be.
I really just want to be. I just really want to just say what I want to say about the fucking movie.
Right.
But and that seems deceptively simple.
Yeah.
But it's not. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I get overwhelmed sometimes at the never-ending barrage of critique and criticism that I'm supposed to respond to as a creator of this shit. And I can't talk about this on any other platform other than this one because, like, when are we allowed to bring up our grievances? You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I mean, well,
but I've allowed it. It's almost given me almost kind of like, it's not writer's block, but it's almost motivational block because I've come to dread something that should be fun for me. You know what I mean? I don't know. I say I dread it, but there's a part of me that dreads making the content that when I genuinely let go of that, I really have a fucking really good time doing it and making it and creating it. But that aspect of critique that comes back at me, that's reflected back at me constantly, that I'm supposed to be some professor of goddamn blah blah filmology. You know what I mean? To be a dude that just talks about the movies that he's watched and what he thinks they mean and how they made him feel, and you know what I mean? Like, why? And I understand people are like, there'd be cynics out there. Like, I'm a cynic myself. That'd go like, why, you dumb fucking stoner? Because nobody wants to listen to dumb shit. And that's fine. I'm not trying to talk to you people. I never marketed myself as come to me to learn about film. If that's what you're looking for, vámonos a ver. Go with God, dude. Go on. Walk your path and I'll walk mine.
Well, it sounds like part of the problem is, though, that you haven't said that to those people of, like, walk your path and I'll walk mine. It sounds like you've tried to, like, oh, what can I do to have something for them, you know? Like, you know, if you feel that way where it's like, look, I'm just not that, then just say, fuck those people.
Right.
That's
and
not
then
my audience.
Right. And then so I start avoiding doing it, and I put my energies elsewhere into the other content, which is not a bad thing, but it's like, you know, it's not good for the fucking channel. And then I start getting the fucking critique of like, Paul's ego hasn't uploaded a video in 17 days. And I'm just like, fuck, you're right. You know what I mean? But God damn it. What if I just get locked in this cycle of like self-critique that ends in me just not getting a video done or being too persnickety to write more than a few paragraphs on a fucking review before I move on to something else. I don't think it's a lack of focus. I just feel like I'm jumping from foot to foot trying to appease something I can never... I'm never going to appease the bottomless pit that is the...
just stop doing that and just... Like, the only advice I could give for that kind of situation is just everything... What you're making should entertain you. Like, it should be totally to your standard. This is what I find amusing. This is what my thoughts are. There shouldn't be anything in there that I put this in here to please this person or this person, because fuck them.
Yeah.
I mean... You know, nothing in the world is going to be tailored to you unless you make it for yourself. So, I mean, like, people have to realize that, you know, they're not going to fucking turn on some other fucking person and agree with everything they say or everything they do or whatever the fuck. Or think, like, this is exactly what I want and what's up my alley and all this shit. Because,
right.
I mean, like, you can't even... That's not even a reasonable request. There's no fucking way to do it. There's no fucking thing that's so universally fucking transcendently good that every single fucking person on Earth just feels the same way about it and is satisfied. There's always going to be fucking... somebody that's negative. There's probably going to be more than, I mean, like, how many movies even come out that are like, even like The Godfather? You can easily find someone who say The Godfather fucking sucks,
right?
Or I think it's overrated, but whatever, you know. I mean, like, you can't fucking expect there to be anything you can possibly do or create that's just going to be universally loved by everybody.
It's hard because it's like, you know, whatever people, you know, and I see their fucking point. It's like, wah, you know, man, boo-hoo. I'm not saying what I do is hard in terms of some of the other things that people do to make their living. I'm just talking about, like, wanting to make something that people like and feeling like I'm not the person that can give them what it is that they like, but they keep... You know what I mean? They're
coming
just,
to you for it anyway.
Yeah. And it's just like,
Okay, if someone's so stupid that they go to fucking they go to Taco Bell to order a hamburger or something, then that's on them. That ain't your fault. You ain't got hamburgers on fucking stock. You're Taco Bell.
Right.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just fucking put it on yourself like, oh, well, if they really want a hamburger, I'll try to fashion the ground beef in the taco into a patty and... Got some Wonder Bread in here somewhere. Maybe we could rig some kind of burger together. Like, who does that? You just say, like, sorry, we don't have burgers here. Fuck off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you know.
But why don't they fucking go away then?
Well, because they're stupid.
Why do they keep coming back and asking for the burger at the taco joint?
You know, like at that point though, like why are they anything but a fucking annoyance? You know, I mean, it's like if someone's at the fucking Taco Bell being like, "Where's my cheeseburger? Where's my cheeseburger?" We laugh at them and say, "That look at that retard." Like they're to be pitied, if anything.
Yeah. Like I had this idea about doing a review of a video game that I'm playing.
Yeah.
And it might have been a cool video to put up on Cinema for Cynics, is just try out some video game shit. Defeated it in my own mind. Just fucking utterly slew it in my own mind. I was just like,
You know how many fucking comments you get when you talk about gaming, about how you're not even a fucking gamer? You don't even want to dip your toe.
you know what I mean? It started there and it just escalated to the point where it's just like, all right, well, whatever. I just won't do it. Just won't do it. And I got to overcome that somehow. You know what I mean? And I think that this conversation is going to help with that. You're absolutely right. I mean, I can't
incur paralysis in that because I mean, like, look, I mean, I don't know if Galen's still in here. I mean, nothing personal by it, but like Galen gets in this mode where he's always planning a video or trying to make a video happen. I'm not saying yours is the exact same thing.
No.
But I'm saying, like, if you get these mental blocks that, like, keep you from actually creating things, then, you know, they're going to just paralyze you forever. Like, you have to fucking just say, whatever it is that's stopping me,
right?
Fuck that. You know, I can't. And you just need to realize you can't write something that's going to plague. You can't fucking try to be a people pleaser because then you're just trying to pander to people.
See, that's fucked up, though, because I mean, you probably know this about me. I've survived on people pleasing. It's like been my currency in life.
Look, if you fucking write a review that you enjoy, people like you will also enjoy it. I mean,
I don't want to just reach people like me.
I mean, but you know, I'm like saying, like, you know, you're funny and shit. It's not just the people who are like you, but the people who would like you if they knew you as well. You know. And it's, you know, if you got that natural fucking, like, comedy, like, you know, you're a good storyteller. You like to talk about movies. You know, you and I have had some great conversations about movies and shit. So, you know, just distill that and put it out there. Don't try to say, well, I'm going to try to be more intellectual than I am, or I'm going to try to take this more deconstructive approach because I think that's what these people want. Like, look at fucking Siskel and Ebert. Like, Siskel liked to fucking logically deconstruct things. Ebert was way more about the emotion of the fucking film. So it was like these two different approaches. They had different approaches to being critics. Mm-hmm. You know, neither of them was trying to be what the other was necessarily.
Right. That's another problem that I have, though. I'll be honest with you. It's just a general, when it comes to that channel, identity problem.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it is, and you know, I don't think I should really. I need to experiment and try different things and see what works. But I don't know, man. I don't know that I don't know that I understand what I'm ultimately shooting for because maybe I shouldn't right now. Maybe I should just be building upon the things that I know have been popular.
I mean, you should be doing stuff. I mean, like, basically what you should be doing on that channel, like, in my opinion, is, like, half of the things you should be doing should be building on things that have worked in the past, and half of the things you should be doing should be experimenting with things that your audience hasn't seen before.
Right.
Like, the whole point of, like, my approach to fucking DFF and shit is, like, you know, especially when we were first starting out, like, what was I most afraid of? Being pigeonholed into something.
Stagnation.
Yeah, I didn't
you wanted like, you were over the top with desire for people to not be able to expect anything from the show.
Right.
You were just like, I don't even want to establish that they get to pick what happens on this fucking show.
And it's not like, I know that the nature of a show is at some point it's going to crystallize, and I can already see it's more crystallized than it is.
I understand why you were like that.
But especially in that early phase, like, it was important to give ourselves as much breathing room as possible to fucking experiment with as much different approaches as possible.
That was a big part of why we selected Tim Allen as the first episode, because it was the ultimate like, finger up in the air telling you, like,
no, you don't know what this is about.
Yeah, you don't get to fucking decide what we talk about.
They think that I hate the fact that, like, so many people hate that episode is not a point of, like, oh man, I really fucked up.
Oh no, mission accomplished.
I take fucking joy in that.
Mission accomplished, dude.
Because I wanted to say something that was like, you were a fan of Drunken Peasants, were you? Well, here's something completely fucking different. You don't like it? Fuck off.
Yeah. And it worked.
And it did.
Oh my God.
It worked exactly as fucking planned. And you know what? The people who hung with us, way better than we shed a lot of fucking dog shit.
Oh yeah, dude.
We shed a lot of fucking dog
Not
shit.
to say that the people that watch both are carried over.
No, I'm not saying that.
You're right.
I'm
though.
just saying that the DP fan base got to a point where we didn't like it.
Well, they didn't like us.
Yeah, we didn't like them. They didn't like us. It was like, oh man, whatever. Fuck these people. We're done with them. So that was a fucking huge success, and it kept the fucking people who were really like pure into the fucking show. And we've seen like it's been growing ever since and shit. So that's been fucking awesome.
It just feels good. Like
I mean, we totally could have, and I think people expected us to do this lazy thing of like, cool, it's the three of them. They're gonna go off and just make DP again.
Right.
It's just going to be DP with just the three of them and just totally subverting that expectation and being like, no, it's going to be something totally different.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, with your channel, you got to fucking, like, you've put out some reviews. I like a lot of the reviews. They're very funny.
Right.
But, like, I don't get that feeling of, like, we got a few solid concepts that they're, like, Cynics versus Cinema. And,
right.
like, we've done some pitch wars. We haven't done one in a while, but we're going to be shooting some of those anyway in the next day or so.
Right.
But like, there's not been this feeling of like, I'm really stretching out here, like,
yeah,
I got to try this and I got to try this and let's see what this does and let's see what that does.
Well, I think you, from the conversation earlier here with a lot of the limiting factors have been to that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? And I'm just trying to be honest about it here in a place, not necessarily something that I felt like I had to do on air or whatever the fuck, but whatever. Like, we need to have this conversation at some point.
I mean, it's real, whatever.
Yeah, part of my problem is I think that when it comes to, I love collaborative things when it comes to performance.
Yeah.
And I've never been at the helm of anything. Unless it's like I've been at like really big parts in plays and shit, but that's always an ensemble arrangement. Sure. You know what I mean? So I've never.
It's a different beast being. I'm
responsible for the tone of this,
yeah.
and I'm responsible for the direction of this. That doesn't come to me naturally. You know what I mean? Like I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, dude, you know what I would be better at, just with no growth on my part, with no attempt to reach out beyond my inclinations.
Yeah,
I'd be better at managing a couple of fucking content creators. When I'm put in that type of position, I'm fucking great. Because I have this way of like, one of the Christian bosses I had called it servant leadership. She said, "You have the heart of a servant."
She called you like the house.
Yeah,
yeah,
the house. Yeah.
Basically,
she called it servant leadership. But the way she explained it, I guess, made a little sense to me. It's like when you approach managing people.
Yeah.
The first thing that you should do is, all things aside, what the fuck can I do to facilitate you? What do you need from me?
Yeah.
What can I do? How can I make your job easier? How can I smooth this over? How can I do this? I do that like but it's something that I don't really use. And it's not like saying I don't really seek those jobs out, but when I've been placed in those positions, I'm good at it. So I'm just saying, like, I know that I would feel like I could manage multiple content creators or just one content creator, but that's not what I want to accomplish. To me, that's just like working at Starbucks, but it's with nice microphones.
You're the
you
shift
know what I mean?
manager.
Yeah, I'm the shift manager at Starbucks again, except for my fucking you know what I mean? My employees have way more latitude to fucking yell and scream at me and are way more fickle. And are way harder to corral and shit. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like a harder Starbucks gig. I'd be good at it, but I'd find no joy in it. You know what I mean? So that's been a part of the barrier to it too. Is just like I feel kind of headless because I've never been asked to, like, here's this property, develop it. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you guys haven't facilitated and helped me. You guys have given a ton of fucking advice and help. This is the first time we've had these types of talks.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm a slow learner when it comes to certain things. When I'm expected to step way outside of my personal experience, I get things, but it takes time for me to like.
I mean, I hate to fucking use a cliche, but there is something I had. There was like on a wall of a classroom or something that stuck with me. It was like, experience is what you get after you need it. Yeah. So I mean, like, you only get experience by fucking up and doing everything the hard way first, basically, especially if you're, I'm not slow learner or, whatever was the phrase you used. Like, I mean, you just got to fucking dive into shit. I mean, that's the only way.
Yeah.
There's like, there's nothing that's going to magically make you everything you want to fucking be other than just fucking like, you got to do it. Like how, you don't get the 10 years experience before you've done the fucking 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I'm lucky to have access to somebody that's done it. And like I said, you and Scotty and Chelsea even, I've had some fucking talks with her about stuff that have really helped me.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? But I'm just finding it a hard thing because I feel like I've got to make this ultimate decision that doesn't really need to be made. You know what I mean? I feel like I need to go like, this is the focus of the channel. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, I mean, like, stuff like that just has to evolve.
Let me give you an example of a conflict.
Okay.
So one of the other shit from the chats, right? And not just the chats, but like social media. And you love some of this shit. And I'm not saying it hurts my fucking feelings to the point where it's horrible. But like all the like, Paul looks depressed. Paul looks like a sack of fucking tears. You know what I mean? And the drumbeat of that... no, go ahead and laugh. You don't have to stifle it. It's fine. It is funny. I really do think it is. But there's a part of me that's just like, God damn. And it's not even a vain thing. Yeah. I don't think I look like much. But it's just that like... people just feel the need to like highlight that part of me, and it's true. I mean, but it's almost like if George R.R. and I'm not comparing myself to George R.R. Martin.
We know.
But you get the drift. If everywhere he went, they had to listen to a dude that was just like, "Hey, you look like a frumpy dumpling elf from Tra-la-la," you know what I mean, or whatever the fuck he looks like. You know what I mean? I've tried to push for like. So I was thinking. Here's the point of all this. I was thinking like you did this video. The big one you just released, the second chapter to your book. Yeah. And it was kind of cool how you cut little clips from things in, and it was all spoken word and all written out and stuff. And I was like, man, dude, fuck. It would be so cool to just do a video where I'm just never shown. Yeah. And I can't even tell you what logical loopholes I found to just keep me from doing it. You know what I did? I spent time just like dissecting your video and watching all the things I liked, and I'm like, man, dude, I just wish I could just like, cause TJ doesn't even have to worry about like what he looks like and shit. He probably just got a big old fucking cum stain on the front of his fucking shirt or some shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because he didn't care. Because he's not in this like visually. Yeah. And so I spent all my time thinking about that, and really like I watched your video. And somehow talked myself out of it. But there was this little voice in the back of my head going like, why don't you?
Yeah, maybe that little voice was me, because I don't really see why not either.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The fucking, the weird barriers and shit that I deal with are sometimes hard to discern the reality of until I like speak them to another person. And I don't really know how to do that a lot. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just, the absurdity of it is,
yeah, I mean, like,
pretty apparent on the face of it.
I think you should go with your first instinct more.
But I really am just fucking tired of those fucking trolls.
I mean, like,
I know I look like...
I don't know, I feel like you troll yourself a lot, too, though, you know?
I look like a fucking hobgoblin. I get it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's not like I'm trying to present myself as not looking like a hobgoblin, but it's just like I feel... I don't know what the impetus is to be in the video.
Let me tell you something. There's not a day that has gone by for the last however many years where I haven't heard the word banana at least once.
Right.
You know, so it's like, you know, they ain't forgetting that. I mean, I've just had to like completely and utterly embrace it. Like, I have like bananas, a food I don't give a shit about, all over like shirts.
Right.
And like in social media profiles and shit. Like, yep, I'm still gotta just own this every day. You know? So it's like, I get what you're saying. But, I mean, I don't know. Like, my fucking way of dealing with it has always been just like, yep, you're right. You're still right. You're right every day for the rest of my life. Congratulations.
Right.
I'm still here. Fuck you.
God damn.
I mean, whatever, you know.
Just one of those
At least
things.
you can tell them to fuck themselves. Like, if you were at Starbucks or something, you know, you can't even tell a shitty customer to go fuck themselves. You know, you just gotta swallow your fucking pride.
That's true.
You can actually tell these people about themselves back. I mean, it just ends up making everything more negative across the board.
Right, but I already swim in that anyway.
Yeah, so, you know, what's
like,
it matter to you? Like, hey, you want to fucking play with toxic sludge? That's my life, bitch. You know? I'll fucking bring you down to my level, and then we'll see who fucking prevails. Let's see if you can exist in my mindset for a fucking minute, bitch.
That's kind of what I do on what I was doing earlier.
Yeah, it's like
on ideology. I was talking to you about it. How I like making.
Because they can handle being called faggots and all that shit, but they can't handle like, here's how meaningless you really are, and here's everything that's wrong with your fucking world.
Paul's so negative. Ugh, I hate when he gets like this. And I'm just like, I'm like that all the time.
Yeah.
People just don't understand. Like, that's not some big, like, a lot of people just like to place these big depressive breakdowns around times when I talk like that on stream. But I could do that over breakfast on a sunny day with a bird chirping on the fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just don't understand.
It's not your mood. It's your philosophy.
Right, and they want to engage me on that.
Yeah.
I didn't. That's the whole thing about ideology, except for the rare streams like this where you and I just have a conversation. We largely just ignore their direction.
Yeah.
When I'm doing solo ones, it's me and them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they direct me to this philosophical topic.
And then get mad when it's not.
And then get mad when I tell them how I really genuinely feel about it. And why I think their outlook is kind of silly and stupid, and what my silly perspectives on their outlook is.
Yeah.
Inviting them, of course, to engage with me back and do the same to mine, and all I get is butt hurt. Paul's so fucking negative. There's a whole thread over on the fucking DP subreddit right now that somebody linked me to. Giant thread.
About your negativity.
And it's just like a big stroke session over there. I was just like, how many people are over there on a show that I haven't been on in like how many fucking months now?
At least 4, 3, something like that.
And it's like one of the biggest fucking threads. It's called Negative Paul, I think, is the thread.
Let's take a look.
Like, look at the upvotes on some of these. There's a Brett Keane one. That's 61. Just hold on. Okay, never mind. I can read it now. So just keep going. Let's see. Maybe it got removed or some shit. No, keep going. Keep on keeping on. I hate fucking Reddit.
Yeah, Reddit sucks.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago. Let's see.
Let me just search for it.
Oh, there it is. I saw it. Go down. Right there. Negative Paul. You see it?
Okay.
So 33 comments. I want you to read this stroke sesh, dude.
All right.
You go for it. You want
Negative Paul.
Yeah.
How long until everyone around him leaves him for being so fucking negative? I swear to fuck he wasn't like that when he first joined DP. But now he's just a full-blown ball of negative energy. He's also slowly turning into Brett. He never leaves the house, is always complaining and aging horribly. The guy is not even 40, and he looks more beat up than most 50-year-olds. See, this is like, my problem is like a lot of these younger people don't have a fucking good frame of reference for what fucking
a 50-year-old looks like.
Because a 50-year-old, you look better than a fucking 50-year-old
whatever.
country goddamn
Maybe
mile.
I don't.
No, you definitely do. I mean, like, no, there's some if you're talking like a peak condition, looks great for his age, 50-year-old, maybe he's got you beat. I don't know.
Okay.
But the average 50-year-old, I'd say you're beating considerably.
Okay.
I hope he gets help, but fuck, man, being negative and lazing around the house is one of the worst things a depressed person can do. So now he's concerned at the end.
Yeah, but he's not a concern troll.
No.
Not a concern troll.
So it starts, man, Paul, I can't wait for everyone to just leave Paul and his life to be destroyed, but I'm worried about him.
He wants to help his depression. He really shouldn't be lazing around the house.
So anyway, I want you to the top comment thread is really what you want to pay attention to here.
Right.
The stroke session here is beyond compare. Read these dudes like you want to take one. Who do you want? Do you want Corming Orn Gord?
Go ahead.
Or do you want T Sloth?
I'll take T Sloth.
Okay, I'll be Corming Orn Gord. Okay. 8 points, 8 upvotes on this. I had to stop watching his streams because of how negative and depressing he always is. He doesn't seem to realize that being negative 24/7 makes you feel like shit emotionally and even physically sometimes. As someone who has bouts of depression, sitting around the house all day does nothing but amplify it. I don't see how people can stand to be around him when he acts like this. Maybe someday he'll wisen up and make an effort to help himself. So concerned with my well-being.
Yeah, dude. Same here. I've been pretty low, but the last thing I do is just stay inside the house if I'm sad. I go out for a run and then to the gym to lift.
10 upvotes on this one, by the way.
The gym to lift.
Listen, look at the stroke sesh.
I feel so much better afterwards. I was happy for him when he was losing weight, but I guess he just gave up on that. Dude, when I'm not, I feel sad sometimes, but then I just stand in front of the mirror and totally lift and kiss my bodacious biceps, and I feel awesome.
Yeah, and then the 2 hot Brazilian bitches that live with me just to suck my dick come out. One juggles my balls and the other fucking swallows my load just to get me started, man.
Whatever. Anyway, let me go on.
Losing weight and eating healthier would make him feel a lot better. That doesn't mean he has to start a rigorous diet. Just make an effort to stop himself from overeating and switch out greasy food for healthier alternatives, and keep switching foods out gradually until he barely eats any unhealthy foods. Having a cheat meal once every 2 weeks is fine. So at this point...
Is he your unpaid life coach
At this
now?
point, yeah. He's giving me advice in some stupid fucking thread on a show I haven't been on in 4 fucking months. And it's just him and the original poster, and they're getting like 10, 15, 5, 7, 6, 8. So there's clearly other people that are reading this going, yeah, that's how I feel about Paul too, and I would like to let him know that.
So anyway, you want to keep going?
The next one's actually still
Oh, yeah,
from your
that's
guy.
right. Addendum. I lost close to 20 pounds doing the things I said above, which is a lot for me since I'm not really overweight.
5 upvotes on that one.
Nice, man. Losing weight when you're not super overweight can be tricky. Oh, cry me a fucking river. I was 260, felt like shit, and was basically a bad, vicious psycho. I was the one holding me back. I stopped smoking weed, which led me to not overeating. I worked out super hard and fixed my sleeping schedule to a more healthy one. I'm 190 now and super happy. I bet if Paul did what we did for 6 months, he'd notice such a big... It sounds like they're fucking pitching you like an exercise system at this
While
point.
simultaneously sizing each other up to suck each other's dicks and butt fuck each other.
They're just like, yeah, bro, you
This
know
is
what?
the, like, tap in the next stall, dude.
You know what? Because Paul's on a show that I watch from time to time, or at least, I don't know why they're having this on a show I'm not on. Paul used to be on a show that I watch from time to time. I know everything about his life, and so do you, bro. If he just, Paul, we got Paul figured out, man. If he just did exactly what both of us have done, bro, he'd solve the puzzle of Paul.
Hey, you want to go get a room somewhere? It's like,
Yeah.
Anyway.
By the way, dude, what are you wearing right now?
Or they probably took it to DMs before it got that hot and heavy.
Yeah.
Let's see. T Sloth. Is that now? You're up, right?
No, I just finished.
Oh, you just did that one?
I didn't finish the whole thing, but I got the gist.
All right. Well, we're only 2 more to go, so we may as well finish this out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nice job. I'm at that same weight. 193 last time I weighed. Plan on getting down to like 140, 150 in the long term. Paul's quit smoking, so he knows the initial hump when you first start's the hardest part. Once you get into a routine of doing things, you don't even think about it. Hopefully these comments help someone who wants to lose weight and is scared of how hard it will be.
Oh, now they're inspirational figures.
Yeah. So not only do
it went from trashing you
yeah,
to giving you advice to now setting themselves up as like, we hope we could inspire others with our awesome display of how great we are.
What are the chances that these dudes are also big Jordan Peterson supporter type guys, dude?
Oh, God.
They just
I don't even know if they're illiterate enough for Peterson.
Oh, my God. Let's see. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. That's basically it.
Oh, fuck yeah, I felt the routine thing a few weeks into it, especially on my diet. I was lifting all the time before I lost weight, but my diet was shit.
So I guess they both finally came or finally took it to DMs and set up their butt washing session or whatever the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
But look, dude, all those upvotes too, like 7, 6, like there are actually people driving by and going, yeah, dude. These 2 guys having a fucking egotistical, nightmarish stroke sesh together in this long-ass fucking thread about this dude that used to be on this show. This is what I come here for, to the DP subreddit. You know what I mean? It's like, who are these fucking people? Who are they? Why won't they go away? You know what I mean? Like, why do they keep watching if I'm the most negative fucking douche? And if they say that they said that they did keep watching, why didn't they stop talking about me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like what we were talking about earlier with that shit that we hated the first time we heard it, but it just like nattered in our mind. Maybe some people just never were able to make that connection and go back and listen to it.
Maybe they just have the nattering and they like seek it out, but they never really allow that part of themselves that is attracted to it to develop enough, so they just like have this confused relationship
in this call-out
like a repressed
culture.
Homosexual's relationship to dick.
yeah. In this call-out culture where everybody's just like so eager to like be the first one to roast whatever. They just are, they aren't allowing themselves to realize that maybe the reason why they can't stop talking about me on the subreddit for a show that I haven't been on 4 fucking years ago, to the extent like it's one of their most like discussed threads, might be indicative of the fact that they like me a little bit and maybe they enjoy what I'm doing and maybe they should just shut their fucking traps and watch it. Or go the fuck away if they hate it, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I got to see it from both perspectives, I guess. They could genuinely just hate me, but at what point, like, when I genuinely hate shit, the only time I spend any more time with it is if I'm going to make money on it by doing a review.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, beyond that, like, as far as, like, my free time, you know how much time I spend with shit I genuinely hate?
Zero.
Well, I won't say zero.
Zero-ish.
But zero-ish. Yeah, definitely. But I definitely don't spend the time in the fucking fan communities of the shit I hate.
I really don't do anything. I mean, like, I would never sit down and watch a movie that I hate unless it was like, I want to make fun of something.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, well, I enjoy complaining about how much I hate this.
Yeah.
You know? So you're still like...
I guess that's just a perspective I don't have.
What's that?
Maybe, I guess they don't... So those people don't hate it, though, right?
What people don't hate
They don't genuinely hate it. People that are just like, yeah, I just really enjoy complaining about this.
Maybe.
They're fans. I mean, come on.
Yeah, maybe...
Right? How do you define a fan? To me, it's somebody that...
who fucking... Yeah, they'll show up, listen to your shit, watch your shit, whatever.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So I see the same names and, you know, the same patterns and shit in people across all our shit. And it's just like, what do you... At some point, you have to consider, like, maybe they just like negging you. Like, maybe they just like...
Talking shit.
Yeah, like seeing somebody that's doing something that maybe they wish they could do. And I'm not trying to build it up like it's some grandiose thing. But maybe they see somebody doing something that they don't consider work, and they're just like, how do I tear this fucking asshole down?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's definitely, like, some bitterness. I mean, like, who the fuck doesn't, like, I'll fucking talk some shit about like SXy feel or something. They're like, you're jealous. I'm like, well, yeah, that's a component for sure. I wish I was fucking getting his kind of views or something, or like I had like, oh, that's what he has.
Right.
For making stuff that I feel like is not as good as what I make. So I have to just swallow that pill every day. I think this shit is garbage compared to what I do, but it's more liked by more people. That's just a reality I have to fucking accept.
Right.
And I think there's people who come to me and see me having more success than they could have for something they probably feel like they could do better than, or they are smarter than, or whatever.
Yeah.
So then they feel like, and it's the same thing. Like these guys, they look at you and they're obviously big fitness nuts and shit because they're really fucking talking about your body more than anything. You know, so they're like, I'm better than Paul in this way. So it's like maybe they feel like, oh, Paul's more talented than me or smarter than me or whatever the fuck they feel. They have some insecurity towards you, so they have
I
to
take good care of my
assess their
body.
dominance.
Yeah,
of like, well, I'm muscular and fit, and he's this fat slob, so
Right.
I'm better.
See, and that's just something that it's hard for me to empathize with because I don't have that. To a certain extent, I look at somebody and I'm judgmental, but when it comes to really deciding whether or not that person is somebody that I can have a conversation with and get along with and like and would want it, I have to wait to hear what comes out of their mouth. You know what I mean? I don't really have that immediately I'm turned off because this person looks like a freak.
Yeah.
Or looks like a fucking dumpy old man with a big grotesque beard and a stoner and I don't like the way he dresses. You know what I mean? Like that's not the first thing I think about. You know what I mean? It's not the deciding factor whether or not I like something. And it's definitely not something I'm willing to just like pursue from
It kind of reminds me
thing
of
to
like
thing.
that story where you were at the meetup and there was that one dude who came to you and talked some shit to you, like, dude, you should go back to your mom's basement or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And it just like totally ruined the night for you to the point where you're just like, fuck this, I don't even want to be around people anymore. Even though, they're being nice. And
I mean, I do that anyway, though. It was a lot of it was just that happening.
Oh, right. I'm just tired of this.
Yeah. Because we'd been like, that was the after party.
Yeah,
that was the
yeah.
second joint we went to that night. So
But
it's just
still, like that guy fucking, even though he didn't mean shit.
yeah,
and
that
he's a
definitely
nobody,
did trigger it.
And you're just like, fuck this shit.
And yeah, dude, it wasn't like
It's like that tendency
what it
to
really
zero in on that fucking
He
one
made me
critical voice and shit.
he made me self-aware in a way that I found to be totally useless. Which is that just totally negative self-critical voice that's like, you're fat and ugly and stupid and this looks dumb and that looks dumb and you got a googly eye. You know what I mean? Like, just that. Like, what can I can, to a limited extent, I can do something about some of that, but all those things being true, the fuck does that have to do with how I walk around and deal with my life?
Not a whole hell of a lot.
And why would I expect anybody else to look any different? You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Like, I love that those two dudes in that fucking thread that we read are in good shape. They'll probably live really healthy lives, and I'll probably get horrible cancer. Like, they think I don't know that? Do you think I sit here with, like, pimples all over my fat fucking ass and a big gut hanging over my fucking shit, back aching like nobody's business, crooked like a fucking question mark, and don't know? You know what I mean? That's really what bothers me about it. It's not even them giving me the advice. It's the assumption that I don't know that what I'm doing is bad for my body and that I need some stupid asshole on the internet to tell me, like there's some kind of fitness guru, how they, lost fucking 45 pounds doing no-fap and fucking no carbs.
I feel like to me, they're not really honestly trying to give advice or even show genuine concern.
But it's just like, when am I coming to them on anything in their lives? You know what I mean? What invites that from people?
But it's like, to them, they want to fucking try to tear you down. You don't have that same urge of like, I want to tear these guys have better bodies than me and I'm jealous, so I want to fucking make them feel feeble in some other way.
Right.
Whereas they obviously have that inclination.
I'm not making any content considering trying to make people that are in good shape feel bad about themselves. Ever. I mean, unless there's a movie about it and I can make a funny joke about it. But that's not been a focus of my fucking content ever in the history of my fucking shit. So I don't know what invited that type of shit. What makes people think
Yeah, be
You know
one
what I-
thing if you like,
and
if
it
you were
goes
like
down to the-
deluded or something, and you're like going around like I'm like a fuck. Look at my
Right.
like Brett Keane flexing in front of the mirror when he's a fat, disgusting slob, and you clearly see that he's like, "You learn I'm fat. Look at this." It's like, yeah, it's you being fat. What?
Right.
You know, how does that disprove anything?
It doesn't.
But you don't have those fucking delusions going on, so I don't know what they think they're correcting.
Well,
It's like, I
Not
know
a whole
I'm
lot.
fat fuck. Hey, baby. What up? All right. Love you.
have a good day, Chelsea. Hope nobody's an asshole to you today.
Me too. Man.
Yeah. I don't know, dude.
I mean, like, I just feel like I'm reminded, honestly, of a line from a fucking Slipknot song. You know?
Oh, God.
I hate to fucking go Slipknot with this shit, but there's that what I don't know what fucking line is it in. I don't remember the name of the fucking song, but it's one of their fucking songs. They're just like, I don't mind being ogled, ridiculed, made to feel minuscule. When you consider the source, it's kind of pitiful. I mean, that's how I fucking basically look at it. Like, why take that seriously? I mean, like, look at those like goofy assholes saying that shit. I mean, they're totally fucking mockable. They're fucking so far up their own ass, it's not even fucking funny.
Right.
To the point where even I, as an egotistical piece of shit, is like, wow, even I would have pulled back at that point.
Yeah.
Just brazenly in love with themselves, criticizing other people. It's like, get your own shit in order. Like, your ego's not even in check. You're worshiping yourselves. You're trying to present yourselves as inspirations. Like, how far is your head up your own ass where you're dispensing advice to other people?
Exactly.
And, like, I don't know, man. I feel like no one is qualified. Like, unless you're fucking, if, you know, like, it's like kind of the expert thing you were talking about earlier. Like, I don't believe in traditionally defining an expert, but there are clearly like, if, you know, you got that criticism from Leonard Nimoy or something. Leonard Nimoy's like, you fucking need to work on this. You take it seriously.
Right.
But these motherfuckers ain't Leonard Nimoy, who are masters of some fucking craft of or art of life that can dispense some great wisdom to
Right.
you or anybody.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and people could say the same about us, but people choose to come listen to us.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is choosing to listen to them? 4 people on Reddit upvoted a stupid comment, so it has some fucking weight or power behind it. I don't care about any of those 4 people.
Right.
If that's the kind of shit they like, then they're stupid.
Yeah.
That's where I see it. And I mean, maybe I'm just deluding myself. Maybe it's like I'm just downplaying criticism or something. But if that's your fucking mechanism, then do that.
You know,
I mean, like, you seem like you like to upplay criticism. It's like, what use is that? That's not fucking doing you any favors.
I mean, but honestly, though, there's so much of it.
Yeah, sure.
And it comes at me from so many angles that even as a dude that, like, even if I said, yo, dude, I just want to avoid that shit and do what I do, bro, it's impossible. It's impossible.
It's impossible to avoid. It's not impossible to fucking ignore.
Well, I mean, yeah, eventually. I'll learn to, I'm sure. But right now, you know what I mean? I'm just being dead honest. Like, that type of shit, I just hate. It's just a drag because I'm never asking anybody that doesn't want to watch me to watch me.
Yeah, you just kind of...
I've never gone...
It's just kind of puzzling to, you know, like, why don't they just go the fuck away? And it's because they have nothing better to do. It's like, you know what? If you're here watching, then you got nothing better to watch. You got nothing better to do with your fucking
Right.
time than watch me talk. So how can you possibly say anything to me about this kind of shit?
Right.
Like, you're here when you could be watching you could go watch fucking Braveheart right now on fucking Amazon or some shit.
Yeah.
You don't have to be watching my ass. Fuck you.
I mean,
you chose me over literally every other fucking form of entertainment on this planet.
Right.
So suck my dick.
Not only that, but there's so many people doing exactly what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
There's like probably, 2 billion people, I'm probably exaggerating, but maybe not, live streaming in some form or another somewhere on the planet. It's just like, the fuck are you doing here? If what I do is shit and derivative, and if I've got soulless eyes and you can... Like, that's one of the things, like, right at the start of my channel. You remember...
I came to you, I was like, I don't know, I kind of want to do sunglasses and stuff. And you were like, nah, dude, I think you just need to take sunglasses off and just do it, dude. Trust me. Once you've done it, it's no big deal. And immediately when I did, everybody was like, dude, you can just see how not into this Paul is. And I'm just like, what? It's like I've been spending like weeks talking with TJ, conceiving the channel, writing reviews, and running them by you and having you help me with it and shit. And when I finally roll it out, and like one of the biggest, most upvoted comments was just like, you can just tell Paul fucking hates doing this, and TJ's like a slave master that's just like, read this content, slave. You know, and I'm just like, what? He's like, look at his eyes, man. You can tell how distant and depressed he is, man. Paul's really giving up, man. And I'm just like, what? I just started something new that I'm really excited about. You know what I mean? Like, what?
Because, you know, like, one of the things you did, though, is you went for a different delivery style.
I did that at the beginning of my fucking YouTube channel, too.
Yeah.
It's almost like I don't learn when it comes to just being me.
Yeah.
I'm way better at centering in on being a character. Like, you cast me in a fucking show or tell me, hey, go do this. I'm there, dude. I'm like a laser. But when it comes to just, hey, I'm Paul's ego, and this is what I think about something, the only environment that I'm really open and free and honest about that in is something like this, in front of people at least.
Yeah.
Where I'm conversing with somebody else.
You have to fucking look at the fucking dial. Like, I don't know, like some people... I've never done this as a writer, but I've heard of a writing technique where you write to a specific imaginary person.
Right.
Like, if, you know, maybe you could apply something like that to that method of like, okay, well, I'm going to imagine that this is me talking to X person. You know, like this is, I'm going to act in a scene where I'm playing myself talking to such and such, and that's the perspective that I'm trying to appeal to and talk towards.
Yeah.
And instead of looking at like this big mass that, you know, does not have one will and never will, focus in on like, just pretend you're talking to me or to Ashley or to somebody, like direct it towards them in your fucking head when you're delivering it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's so hard, man, for me.
I mean, maybe it'd fucking help as a fucking tool. I don't know. I've never, like I said, I never tried it, so I don't really know.
Yeah.
But
part of it is just like the act of cold reading.
Yeah.
I focus on shit that doesn't even matter. Nobody else notices it. Like, I was all like, the last video I put on Cinema for Cynics, I spent like an hour and a half agonizing over the audio because I thought it was like too hissy or whatever. And I did, and I barely changed anything. I maybe lowered it a little bit. Nobody said a fucking thing about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, how... But in my brain, while I was doing that task, I was like, man, this is necessary for this fucking video, dude. It just sounds like shit. Shit! You know what I mean? And nobody cared.
Yeah. They don't.
I'm just riddled with all these fucking weird... You know what I mean? Like, constant barriers that I throw up in front of myself. It's like, get out of your own way memes really apply to me.
I mean, like...
And I don't feel like that on any of our other properties. You know what I mean? When it's because you're the one that's totally responsible for every single... There's not... It's when you're... I mean, like, when we do stuff for Cinema for Cynics where we collaborate back and forth... Right.
You know, there's no issue there. I feel like when you do fucking put out reviews on your channel, they're always fucking good. I've never fucking watched one of your reviews. Maybe like... some of the ones that were a little drier because maybe it was a movie that you kind of liked but weren't excited about or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Some of those were kind of like, okay, well, you know, whatever. But like, you know, when you have a negative review, I've never seen a negative review you've done or a effusively positive one you've done that I wasn't like, that's really good.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously there's like way too much, in my opinion, like second guessing going on of like instincts. Like, it doesn't really seem to me like your problem is you've got bad instincts about what you should be doing. It seems like you have a good instinct and then you talk yourself out of doing it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you don't have to be in every video. Like, it's okay for you to do a video where you're not fucking actually on camera. I do it all the time.
Right.
You know, if you wanted to do videos where you never appeared on camera, there's plenty of reviewers who just show clips and stills and shit. You don't even have to be on camera if you don't fucking want to.
Right.
unless you have like a visual gag or whatever. Like, you can do literally anything you fucking want to do. Like, the only fucking limitation of Cinema for Cynics is entertainment. As long as it's angled around entertainment in some way, shape, or form, and it's something that you passes the litmus test for you of like, would I be entertained by this if I was an outside observer watching this?
Mm-hmm.
And if it fucking meets that criteria, then that's all that should matter.
Right.
Not anything that anyone else is saying. And by the way, you know, I mean, like, that channel has plenty of fucking fans and shit. I mean, like, there's videos on that channel with 700-something thousand fucking views of people who seem to predominantly enjoy what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like, you know, maybe if you showed it to every single person on Earth, the opinion would be divided wildly. But the people who sought it out and found it seemed like the majority of them were like, yeah, this is good. I like this. So, I mean, I don't know. I just don't understand the point of focusing in on negative voices amidst a fucking choir. I mean, it's like...
Well, it's the story of my life, dude.
I mean, like, I'd say, like, for me, I mean, I don't mean to fucking... I don't want to hurt any fan feelings or anything, but, like, I have heard the story of, like, how I changed someone's life, like, 1 billion times to the point where it doesn't even affect me.
Right.
You know, and it's a shitty thing because someone's really opening up to you, like, wow, you touched me in a deep, profound way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's great. I've heard it 20 million times. You know, I don't say that, but, you know, inside it's kind of like, yeah, I know. I changed a lot of people's lives. Great. You know, and I don't want to be a dick about it, but it's just the truth. It's like it loses its power. But I think part of it, too, is because I've had to shut myself off from giving a shit about those opinions because it's like I can't... I don't have the ability to be like, well, the positive opinions are all true, but the negative... I'm not hypocritical enough to do that. So I just have to come up with something where it's like, this cannot matter to me because if it does, I'm compromised. If this matters to me, I'm just fucked. There's no way I can do what I do if I think this is important.
Right.
So I have to just be like, this is not important. You know, and I come in here and I even interact and shit, but there's always going to be that wall, that barrier of like, yeah, but, you know, ultimately we have sort of a clinical fucking relationship on some levels. You know, this is kind of a one-way street in a lot of ways. You know, and I don't know, maybe that's just not your natural inclination to do, but that's something that I've had to develop to be able to deal with the kind of stuff you're talking about. I don't think it ever affected me quite as much, though, honestly.
Right.
But I mean, like, I don't know. I was a hated fucking pariah when I was in school as a kid. No one ever I always just felt like nobody fucking liked my ass. So I just, from an early age, was like, well, then fuck them.
Yeah.
Like, I was the kid who played alone at recess for most of my fucking childhood. And just, like, I had fun. You know, I wasn't like, man, I wish I was playing with the other kids. I wanted them to leave me alone. I was a loner. So maybe I have kind of that nature, whereas you have more of a naturally social nature. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I just had a very different kind of childhood, honestly. That's one thing where you and I diverge kind of wildly on in pretty much every aspect, circumstances, and I mean, we have some similarities, I think.
Sure.
But yeah, my like formative kind of high school years and school years are all very positive memories in my mind. I had, you know, not tons of friends, but I had a pretty big social circle, and I was pretty accepted around school. I mean, I saw this comment the other day talking about how I was insanely bullied for my entire life, and I was bullied on and off, but for the most part, I wasn't. I had a big group of friends, and I was reasonably popular, even though I was a fat kid. I just had a different...
And I wasn't bullied because I stood so much taller than most
Right.
people. Occasionally, and you know, if I was bullied, it was always by short kids who were trying to like prove something.
Yeah.
Usually. But you know, I
Yeah,
had
it makes
I had
sense.
to prove myself a few times. Like I just like pushed this kid, and he like flew. I mean, he was a bully. He was bullying.
Yeah.
But I just got to the point where when I fucking finally did do something about it, I just gave him a push, and he flew across the fucking schoolyard. Then he came back and started punching on me, and it was like, couldn't even really feel it, you know? I think it was just because my adrenaline's going, and he wasn't very strong because he was smaller than me.
Right.
So it was like, you know. So I just kind of like, after I did stuff like that a couple times, you know, maybe at a few different schools. People just kind of left me alone, and I just had a very lonerish school. I had like 2 or 3 friends in my entire like school career. I had a friend named Nick who was kind of like, I don't know. I mean, like, I definitely thought he was cool to a point where I was like subservient to him. Like, you know, like he was like the very much like the dominant friend, and I was like the kind of little tag along, although I was big. He was big too, though, you know, but he wasn't as big as me, but he was still a big fucking kid, and he was just way more like aggressive and shit. But it was kind of cool to have him as a friend because, you know, he had all these like he had this household. I thought it was awesome at the time, like, you know, like, because his mom was like had no control over him, and he'd just be like, "Fuck you, mom," because his dad was out of the picture, and she was like a pushover.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, man, that's so cool. He can just curse out his mom. And like, I look back on it now, like, whoa, that was a broken ass home.
That happens a lot with me when I tell people about shit that went on in my home too, though.
Yeah.
As a kid, does that happen with you too? Shit that you just thought was totally normal, you know, or reasonably normal as a kid, and you're telling a story about something that happened when you were a kid, and people are like, "What the fuck?" That happens to me a lot, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I don't really feel like I was super abused as a kid. Like, I don't want to paint that fucking picture. But by the same token, like, there's a lot of shit going on in my fucking household that wasn't going on in other people's households, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like my household was probably mostly pretty normal. I mean, there was, like, with my stepdad especially, some, like, big... Like, because he's, like, hot-headed and hot-tempered and shit. So, like, there'd be, like, holes punched in walls and, you know...
Big blow-up fights and shit. Yeah,
huge blow-up fights with my mom and shit, you know, that were, like, super fucking scary as a kid. You know, you'd be hiding in, like, a closet or some shit.
Right.
You know. But, I mean, that's not super uncommon, I guess.
No.
But...
that's how my mom and biological dad... in their original marriage, that's how they dealt with one another. I mean, there were some crazy fights. I remember when my mom, we had kind of a big house when I was first born.
Yeah.
Because my parents, I talked a little bit about this on stream the other night, but my parents had this kind of like, you know, blue collar working class salary. But back in 1980, when I was born, that meant a little more than it does today. And because they had those 2 factory jobs that they both went to and got that really, you know, higher than usual pay, you know, compared to a non-union job, they were able to afford a nice piece of land out in the middle of nowhere outside of Madera and put a nice big house on it and have, you know, room to have a horse pasture and shit. Lived on a few acres, and it's a pretty sweet deal. But one of the first things I remember is my mom had this bathroom that had this counter, and it was just a really long counter, big mirrors, you know, it was for makeup and her bathroom, you know what I mean? And she had all these perfumes and makeups and all these different little things. And I remember one time there was a fight that happened where at some point, and I always thought it was my dad until I asked my mom about it, and it was her. Somebody just took everything. And I mean, there was just tons of shit that she'd collected over the years, you know, all these little glass bottles and shit. And just raked it off the counter during one of these intense blow-up sessions that they would have, and it just broke, and there's all this product was everywhere. I mean, like lotions and potions, and it just reeked, you know what I mean? And it was just like really destructive. Like cleaning that up must have been a fucking nightmare. And it happened in the course of like an argument.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an argumentative fuck as a result from a lot of that, because that was a foundational thing. My parents were together for a long time as a kid, and it's just like how I learned how to deal with people sometimes, and especially in relationships. I tend to be real argumentative, more so than with anybody else in my life, with whoever I'm with. And Ashley, you know, if she was awake right now, would attest to the truth of that.
Yeah.
But it's never ever in my life escalated to that point where it's like physical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like maybe it's brushed on the edge of that. And I've certainly been on the receiving end of some physical shit that wouldn't be cool the other way around.
Right.
But you know what I mean? I just don't know. Like,
Yeah, that's pretty fucking crazy. Yeah, I mean, I had like a lot of similar stuff, like, you know, holes punched in walls, stuff being broken, you know, like mom fucking smashed Steve's truck's windows out one time. Like, there was like some crazy.
did they do a lot of like
fights.
verbal yelling and arguing?
Oh yeah,
So you know the weird quality of the muffled argument.
yeah.
You know, you're just
Yeah.
like you're like a kid, and you're like, what
And
the
you have
fuck?
no idea what's even, because you're like kind of trying to hide from it because they're
Yeah.
fucking crazy.
And then sometimes you go out like to try and listen and see what they're actually arguing about. It's always some weird shit you don't understand.
Yeah.
He's like, I told fucking Carla that I wouldn't call her again, but you are always fucking looking at my phone and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And you're just like, I never, you know, you're just like, what is this about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Fucking crazy shit. What a weird thing to like grow up around. You know what I mean? The anxiety that comes with that is the worst. Yeah, I mean, I guess it can probably cause anxiety, but people deal with it in different ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what long-term effects it might have had, but I just know at the time it was like, man, this is fucking scary shit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know in what ways it affected my psyche down the road. I don't even have a way to begin to speculate. I really can't see any direct stuff from it, but it definitely is stuck in my head. So
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been effects for sure.
Yeah, it's just kind of a weird environment to think about.
But I feel like 99% of the time the household was pretty goddamn normal. But
Oh,
like,
yeah, mine too.
I don't know. You know, it's like you don't really know what normal is in other people's eyes.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't like punctuated by fear and anxiety and shit for 99% of the time.
No, yeah.
But it was just, there was just this weird evil that would come to the house every once in a while in the form of one of these giant arguments where shit got destroyed. And, you know, sometimes people would move out for a couple of days and shit.
Next time on Dr. Kirk.
Yeah, I guess
Whatever, dude.
we've descended into a therapy session and shit. And that's all relevant, though. We're talking about, like,
I mean,
why criticism is so important to me.
I mean, we're still, I feel like in the overarching difference in life philosophy argument between two philosophical positions that if we'd wasted time arguing them directly, probably would not have gotten this far.
Right.
But trying to discover underlying differences in the way we perceive the world and, you know, looking at like, okay, we're similar in this way, we're different in this way, all that. I mean, that's like kind of the purpose of a goddamn conversation if it's actually done right.
You're right. Yeah.
You know, it's exploring like, what are our mutual similarities? How are you different from me in ways that, you know, I've never considered, and maybe broaden my horizons to a different perspective, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely a helpful thing.
We are inspirations, just like those two muscleheads from earlier. Be inspired by us.
Fuck.
Yeah. Well, I think I want to smoke a cigarette, get something to drink, and probably lay down for a few hours before Scotty's here to do shows.
Yep, that's probably a good idea. Good night, everybody.
Peace, y'all.